All right, we are live here at the Bulwark for election night 2025. A little bit of a different vibe than election night 2024. I think less anxiety in the room than I remember from a year ago. I'm joined by Bill Crystal and Catherine Rampell, newest addition to the Bulwark. Thank you guys for doing this. In a matter of minutes, we have a special guest. My House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is actually going to be joining us, which we're pretty psyched about. But before we get there, a quick catch up for those who are watching. And first of all, thank you for watching. We're going to be monitoring the comment section for people. I'll try to get to some audience questions as well. But quick catch up. So far, we have been seeing results come in from the Virginia elections with a couple calls. Abigail Spanberger has been called the winner of the gubernatorial election by multiple news outlets. Ghazala Hashmi has been called the winner of the lieutenant governor's election by Decision Desk. I have not seen any other outlets call it, but if it does hold up, and they're pretty accurate usually, she will be, and I didn't know this until now, the first Muslim woman elected to a statewide office ever in this country. And then the tight one is the race for Attorney General, where Jay Jones, the very controversial Democrat and the candidate who was caught sending text messages wishing his Republican opponent's death. It's close. We'll see. He's trailing Spanberger by a couple points. The New Jersey governor's race is the tighter one. The polls are closing as we speak. We'll try to monitor that to get you the results as we see it. And then, of course, the New York City mayor's race is the other big one. We're old and we're not going to wait for the California referendum. It's just too late. I can't stay up that late. And I know Bill can't either. He's got morning shots to write. All right. We have a couple minutes before we get to Leader Jeffries. Bill, what are your sort of big picture thoughts, and what are you looking at for the rest of the night?
I mean, I think people have gotten used to the notion that Spanberger would win easily in Virginia, and she is winning easily, maybe by a little more, though, than people thought. Maybe 10 points, a little more, I would suspect, at the end. But, I mean, if you had told us 6 months ago, or certainly 9 months ago, after Biden's defeat, and Biden only won Virginia, which was supposed to be a safe state, by 6 points, and there was, general pessimism about Democrats ever winning anything in the future, and you had said Spanberger's going to win by 10, I'm going to guess, Cheryl, the polls are now closed, we don't know, but it's going to win by 6, 7, 8, something like that. That's pretty, Democrats will increase their margin in the Virginia House of Delegates. I think people, it's been a good night for the Democrats.
Yeah, I think that seems about right. We'll see if Mickey Sherrill will keep it up. The exit polls suggest like a 7-point win. Exit polls are very unreliable. I shouldn't have even mentioned it. Sorry about that, but it's the data we have. Catherine, how about you? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm interested in New Jersey. I think they're both New Jersey and Virginia, we may be over-indexing on this year because as a bellwether anyway for what's going to happen next year, because those are the races that we have available. Well, those in New York, I guess, are
Right.
the big ones. But Virginia obviously likely swayed by the shutdown and Doge and a bunch of other very recent things that may have increased the ire against Republicans and may have definitely helped the Democrats.
Certainly helped them vote during the course of the day. But a bunch of furloughed workers with not much to do. Yeah,
that's true. Don't even need to request some time off. In
Yeah.
New Jersey is interesting for a few different reasons, including that it had one of the biggest swings toward Republicans from 2020 to 2024. I mean, in the presidential race. Biden still won it, but it was by the narrowest margin for a Dem, I think, since 92, somewhere around there. So Republicans gained a lot of vote share, even if they lost ultimately the presidential race. That was largely driven by the Latino vote in New Jersey, being ticked off about high prices and things like that. And some of those same frustrations still exist, right? Like in New Jersey, the race is largely about frustration with electricity prices, which have gone up, I think, over 20% in the past year. So it's a different cost of living issue, but it's still a cost of living issue. So it'll be interesting to see, are the voters there taking that anger out on the presidential incumbent or the gubernatorial incumbent? Because the governor in the state is a Democrat, the president obviously is a Republican. But if people are voting in response to their anger about prices and affordability and cost of living and all of that, the question is who benefits from that this time around? And because I do think that'll be an issue next year. Electricity costs,
Well,
some other things.
Well, we have someone who might be able to answer some of these questions. I interpret him being here as him being a Bulwark fan, but we'll see. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man tonight. And we only have you for a couple of minutes, so I want to get right into it. Look, a year ago at this time, or maybe a year ago tomorrow at this time, it was different and difficult for Democrats. And I'm just sort of curious, in the year that's transpired and looking at the results tonight, what's like the one thing about your view and thinking of national politics that you believe has changed the most?
Well, I think that it's clear to us as Democrats heading into the year that the issue of affordability, the economy, inflation had to be front and center. And we could never again allow Donald Trump and the Republicans to falsely claim that they were going to do something about it. Because the reality is Donald Trump, of course, promised that he was going to lower costs on day one. My view was he always was over-promising and was going to under-deliver. And the fact that he's not just under-delivered, but is actively making things worse, the Trump tariffs increasing costs for the average American family by thousands of dollars per year. And then we know grocery costs up, housing costs up, electricity prices through the roof, made worse by the one big ugly bill and the attack on the clean energy economy. And now, as if they haven't been paying attention, Republicans are refusing to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and they want to dramatically increase healthcare premiums on working class Americans all across the country. Whereas Democrats have been laser focused on the economy from the very beginning of this year, making it clear that we were committed to driving down the high cost of living. Abigail Spanberger campaigned relentlessly on lowering costs for the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Of course, Mikey Sherrill campaigned relentlessly on lowering costs for the people of New Jersey. And we've seen that happen in special election after special election after special election all across the country that we've also been winning since January in Iowa.
I'm going to kick it to Bill. Bill, what do you have?
Yeah, so Spanberger was a colleague of yours, obviously, until she didn't run for re-election last year, planning to run for governor, and Mike Sherrill still in the House, right? And will presumably step down and be an open seat for you guys. So you must be pleased that two House members who were elected in 2018 and part of that wave have done well here in 2025.
Yeah, without question. And, Abigail and Mikey are both great American patriots. They served this country. Mikey, of course, a Naval Academy graduate, helicopter pilot. Abigail Spanberger, who was a CIA operative and is someone who has served this country before the two of them arrived in Congress in 2018. As you indicated, Bill, they were part of the blue wave of 2018, the great class where you've had members go on now to be senators. These will be the first two governors from that class of 2018. And we expect to see more because those were great patriots who, saw that the House of our country, of our democracy was on fire. And instead of running away from that House, they ran toward it. And we're seeing a similar level of energy with the candidates that we're going to field in 2026, people who have served this country well in a variety of different ways, who realize that, the patriotic thing to do right now is to make sure that we take back control of the House of Representatives so we can begin the process of ending this national nightmare.
Catherine?
I want to ask you, Leader Jeffries, about the shutdown, if I may, which obviously is a factor in tonight's election results. One question that I have for you is that even if a deal comes together somehow in the next few days, and obviously there are people speculating about that, how concerned are you that the Trump administration might just send a rescissions package or illegally withhold funding anyway? And what assurances are you looking for from Republicans to protect Congress's power of the purse?
Well, Donald Trump has adopted sort of a king-like my way or the highway approach from the very beginning on a wide variety of issues. And that, of course, includes intruding upon Congress's power of the purse in ways that he's shifting around taxpayer dollars and undermining our ability collectively to make life better for the American people. So in any agreement that's ultimately reached, certainly making sure that there are guardrails will be important. But the central issue of this discussion over the last several weeks, of course, has been our desire as Democrats to make clear that the cost of living is too high in this country. Republicans, unfortunately, have done nothing about it. They've broken every promise they made, and life is getting more expensive. And as it relates to healthcare, there's a real-time crisis that is unfolding that included, Republicans passing that one big ugly bill, largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are now closing all across the country because of Republican policies. There's a possible cut to Medicare at the end of the year, $536 billion. That will be the largest cut to Medicare in American history if Congress doesn't act, triggered by their one big ugly bill. And now we have their refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. They can find $40 billion to bail out their right-wing dictator wannabe friend in Argentina, but can't find a penny to provide affordable health care to the American people.
But I'm asking, let's say you make a deal. How do you know that they'll keep to the terms of the deal, given the administration has just unilaterally decided not to spend money appropriated by Congress in the past? Like, it's hard for me to understand what the off-ramp is to all of this if you can't trust that even if Republicans give Democrats everything that they're asking for, that they won't renege on it.
Well, legislatively, it's clear that the way that any agreement is written has to be ironclad. And I think the appropriators on both the House and Senate side have made that clear from a Democratic standpoint. And some of our Republican colleagues will quietly acknowledge that that needs to happen as well. So the devil will be in the details in terms of what gets worked out relative to the appropriations language. They're going to have to be important guardrails. And we're also going to need the Article III federal courts to step up, as opposed to what we've seen in many instances, particularly at the Supreme Court level, which is to continue to give Donald Trump a pass, though he is clearly violating the law.
You talked a bit about retaking the House, which is your ultimate objective here. You are the House Minority Leader. You want to have majority in your title. The big thing that's happening with respect to the House is redistricting. And right before you came on, good news for you, the out of Kansas, where it looks like Republicans, the state house there, are going to drop their efforts to do redistricting. But still, there's a number of states with Republican legislators that have moved ahead. And what we're seeing is question marks on the Democratic side, frankly. Virginia is going to move ahead, but it's unclear if they can do it. But more specifically, in Illinois and in Maryland, we've seen a little bit of speed bumps for Democrats. And it comes down to, in some cases, a tension between Black lawmakers who don't want to see their districts divvied up and some other state house officials who do want to do it in order to make more opportunities for Democrats. Are you confident at this point in time that you can move forward with redistricting in both Illinois and Maryland? Yes or no?
Yes, I'm confident, as I've said months ago, that Democrats were not going to allow Republicans to mathematically gerrymander their way to a victory in 2026. I said that months ago, and you now see it happening. Despite all the skepticism that existed, people didn't think California was going to be possible, and now it's possible. We're going to have a decisive win today and wipe out whatever gains the extremists thought they were making in Texas, and we may even net more seats in California, to tell the truth. And we've got a pending lawsuit in Texas that we have a more than 50% chance to win. So then you go state after state after state from there. People didn't expect to see the outcome that they saw in Ohio, but they saw an outcome in Ohio where Democrats can now hold those 3 seats that Donald Trump claimed he was beating his chest that he was going to be in a position to take away. In terms of Illinois, there are 4 African-American members of Congress in Illinois. All 4 members signed a statement, as did every other member of the Illinois congressional delegation, last Monday, where I visited, indicating that the legislature should go full steam ahead. You're going to see the same thing in Maryland. And by the way, the governor of Maryland, who's a great governor, just happens to be African-American. And he's the one today that started the process to explore redistricting in the state of Maryland. We've got opportunities, of course, in Virginia. No one saw that coming. And those opportunities we'll see through to the end. We won a lawsuit in Utah that gives us an additional opportunity that no one saw coming, because now Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County have to be restored. Ben McAdams, who used to hold the seat before he was basically gerrymandered out of an opportunity to run for the seat again, is going to run, and he's going to win. They backed away in Kansas. They got limited opportunities in Florida. In Missouri, we're going to take that to referendum, and we're going to wipe away what they did in Missouri. And what does that leave you with at the end of the day? Potentially North Carolina, one seat, where Don Davis is running for re-election, and he's going to win.
We don't have any more time with you, but very, very quickly, because the shutdown, it does need to get resolved. When's the last time you spoke with Donald Trump or Mike Johnson about the shutdown?
Spoke with Mike Johnson a few days ago. It was a very brief conversation, and just reiterated the fact that we want to sit down to negotiate a bipartisan path forward. We want to reopen the government, and we also need to decisively address the Republican healthcare crisis. But of course, the reality is Mike Johnson takes his orders from Donald Trump. And until Donald Trump, who's been missing in action for the last 35 days, the guy has spent more time on the golf course than he has talking with Democrats who represent half the country. He's disinterested. He's trying to inflict this pain on the American people and could care less about what the outcome will be. Until Donald Trump gets engaged, it's going to be hard to see a path forward. And Republicans in the House and the Senate, this version of the Republican Party, unfortunately, they just behave like rubber stamps of Donald Trump's extreme agenda. They have no interest in pursuing a Madisonian approach to what Congress should be. I think he suggested that Congress should be a rival to the executive branch. I happen to agree with that approach.
You're just trying to play to Bill Kristol's heart here with invoking Madison. That's just cheap.
I'm
All right,
deeply moved. I'm deeply moved.
Yeah, seriously. Next, you're going to start quoting the Federalist Papers, and Bill's going to start tearing up. All right, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. I know you're very busy tonight. Take care. All the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. And while we were speaking, a few updates. Decision Desk projects Mickey Sherrill will win the New Jersey governor election. They made that call at 8:13. And just to catch everyone up, Abigail Spanberger has also been projected by multiple outlets to be next governor of Virginia. And man, yeah, these were quick calls. Let's get to that first, and then we'll talk about Hakeem Jeffries. You surprised, Bill, by how quick these calls are?
No, because it means that Cheryl's winning by, high single digits. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah.
And I've always thought she might, the exit polls, take 12 seconds on this, they can weight, obviously, the percentages, sometimes accurately, sometimes not so much, but they don't know what the turnout is, and they're not doing a survey of turnout. They're interviewing people at different polling places. So they map it onto what they think the turnout will be, which is usually pretty much what it was in the last comparable election, gubernatorial elections. Clearly in Virginia, clearly in New York, and I think in New Jersey, turnout is up a lot. And I think it's probably up disproportionately in Democratic areas. So I suspect Spanberger and Sherrill are outperforming the exit polls, and that's why they're able to call these a little more quickly even than one thought.
Yeah, I think that's right. I guess I'm a little bit surprised because I assumed the McSherrill race was supposed to be a lot closer than this, and we at least have to wait. But Catherine, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought this was not going to be a blowout or anything. Mikey Sherrill has not run the best campaign, and is not like
Why not though? She clearly ran a good one, I guess, right?
Well, or
maybe what do we know?
I mean, we have an n=1 data point, so I guess we don't know if with a different president in office, like how much did she benefit from, again, Democratic rage at the president? If you listen to what she talked about in the campaign, a lot of it was about national issues. It was sort of like electricity and high cost of living and Trump. At least that's the closing message that I heard. So maybe she benefited from that. I mean, I don't think that she's like a bad candidate, but I just think her campaign was not particularly. Look, I'm in the tri-state area media market. When you compare her campaign,
what's that been like?
Oh my God, it's so many ads.
Because our Virginia media market has been insane. Inundated with ads.
Well, I was just going to say, because here, I can see the difference between Mamdani's campaign, for example, and Mikey Sherrill's campaign. And Mamdani is kind of an outlier. He's run a really great campaign, whatever you think of his policies. And I don't know. Yeah.
Bill, you're going to say something?
Candidate skills. It's interesting that obviously Leader Jeffries wants to make it about the party as a whole, and there's a lot of truth to that. And we are seeing, I think, a mini wave here, and Spanberger and Sherrill are going to end up with a similar number in states that Biden won by 6. Everything's nationalized now, right? And everything is, so it's not wrong of him analytically to emphasize that. Having said that, here in Virginia, I suspect Spanberger's could win by 10, maybe a little more. And the Attorney General candidate, I think, is probably going to win, but by 1 or 2. But very close. So that shows that candidates matter, right? 9 points is a big difference, a big delta if you're thinking about a race. And I think that's generally true. And I do think a lot of Democrats are wringing their hands, maybe correctly, maybe too much so, about Mamdani and what will it be if he's the face of the party winning in New York City. But in 2 slightly larger electorates, New Jersey and Virginia, Spanberger and Sherrill will be, I think Jeffries was right about this, an attractive face of the party if you think the party needs to be sort of more moderate, more hawkish, people who came to politics, not career politicians, who came into politics because of what they saw around them in 2017, 18. I wish I would have pressed them a little more on whether they're trying to recruit candidates like that for 2026. 2017, 18 was a wave, and a lot of people took credit for it on a lot of reasons. But one reason I will say, living in a district that flipped here, was they got good candidates who were not the typical career politician moving up the next step of the ladder. I think they're trying to do that this year, but I'm curious to see how much they do that, because candidates can if they make 3, 4, 5 points of difference, that's big.
Wasn't there like a concerted effort by the DNC that cycle to bring in a lot to bring in Democratic candidates with some kind of national security background?
I would say they said afterwards. They said afterwards there was a concerted effort. I would say I actually know both Spanberger and Sherrill. They decided they wanted to run for Congress, and then they went to to their credit of the D-Trip, Triple C and the DNC, they went to them, and these people, they were welcome. They weren't shoved aside in favor of the local state legislator who had been in office for 18 years in that district. So they deserve some credit. But I think it was a little bit of retro, what's that called when you create the explanation, take after the fact, and I think this is happening some this year in some of these states. Now, some of them don't work out instantly because they're not experienced candidates.
Right.
Like the guy in Maine had a great run for like a month or 2, and maybe he's not so great
Still
anymore.
running, man.
But it's riskier to have those candidates. But I guess I do think with the mood being so,
officials are also running away. But
but the mood being so anti-incumbent, so Biden hangover driven, they really need younger and different candidates, I think.
I want to move this on. I want to move along a little bit. I do feel obligated to read a comment from Pondering Politics in our feed, because whoever this person this person writes, what's the bigger, and this is not a question we're going to answer, I'm just going to read the comment. What's the bigger beatdown, what to the GOP tonight, or Catherine's humiliation of Scott Jennings over the Elon Musk salute? That was a $10 comment right there. Just to recap here, we have
a relative of Catherine, someone watching in her extended family. That was nice. Yeah.
Yeah, Catherine's mother, I believe. No, this is early so far tonight. Calls in Virginia and in New Jersey, governor's races for the Democrats in each case. I do want to go back to Jeffries and talk a bit about the issue of the shutdown, but also Democrats' focus on cost of living. Because I think that was it was sort of a rote comment about how Democrats are approaching the election, but I do think it says a lot, which is they are really like trying their best to make that the central point of this election. They're not really delving as much as we at the Bulwark probably want them to. We're not delving into the issues of, the institutions and the guardrails and democracy is at stake. But from Mamdani to Sherrill to Spanberger to Graham Plattner, these are all people who are making economics and cost of living central to the campaign. And man, I think the results are very evident that it's working, right?
I would just qualify it one way. We don't know what the marginal voters are. So most voters, yes, kitchen table issues, et cetera, et cetera. I could argue, might be wrong. A lot of those voters are Democrats, and they care about kitchen table issues, and they prefer democratic solutions. And that preference has been accentuated by Trump's behavior, obviously in the shutdown, and also with the reconciliation bill. But it's not clear to me that there weren't people who came to No Kings rallies who are more motivated by, let's call it the democracy issue, the ICE and masked ICE types pulling people out of the streets issues, the blowing up boats in the Caribbean issues. And they could be the marginal voters. So in other words, the misleading thing about polls is 60% of the voters can say the kitchen table issues were key, but are those the 60% that how many of them did you gain? And I do feel like I'm curious to see some of the breakdowns here in Virginia and more traditionally Republican-ish areas, whether there are people who maybe moved on some of these other issues. So, and also it's a final point, candidates can talk about certain issues. It doesn't mean that that's actually what motivates the voters. So I think the distaste for what Trump is doing, which is broad, but it's not limited to the fact that he's not keeping his promise to bring eggs prices down,
Really?
gas prices down. You
I
know,
don't know if I
that's,
agree
I mean,
with
I think
that.
Jeffries is just kidding himself. I mean, the voters, they don't like inflation. The economy is not great. It's not terrible. But, you know, clearly the unhappiness with Trump is not at 37% because of the economy. I mean, literally, it can't be the case. The economy is not that bad. And unemployment is, what is
Oh, wow.
unemployment?
Yeah, but the
Catherine?
economy wasn't that bad last year, and
Right,
it was a huge weight around first Biden's campaign and then Kamala Harris's campaign.
It was some
People are
weight or-
still pissed off about the cost of living,
Fair enough.
and prices have gone up a lot over the past several years. By the time we got around to the election last year, the actual rate of inflation, so like how much prices were still growing, had moderated quite a bit, but people had already like absorbed big price increases. And now this year, you're still seeing prices go up more than has been historically been the case. And they're ticked off again about particular things that are very painful. I mentioned electricity in New Jersey. That's actually going to be a national issue. I really think so. If you look at the prices around the country, that's going to be, you know, people notice that. It is true that we had huge crowds for the No King's Day rallies, and I don't discount that. But even with those huge crowds, it was like 1 in every 50 Americans, which is like really an impressive share. But that's 1 in every 50 Americans who is motivated by, you know, the destruction of institutions and disgust and revulsion over ICE raids
let's
and
put
all
it
of
this
that.
way.
Whereas I think everybody notices if
No,
their
I
grocery
take that point,
prices go
Catherine,
up.
but first of all, it is more like 1 in 10 or 1 in 12 of all the Americans who are going to, since every single person who went to that rally is going to vote in 2026, and the vote in 26 is going to be 100 million, 7 million is a little bigger percentage. And again, we
Sure.
don't know how many of those are marginal voters. I would just make that point. So I don't disagree with you at all. And obviously it hurt Biden badly. On the other hand, what did the Republicans spend all their money on in ads in 2024? What did the Trump campaign spend its money on?
Well, so okay, this is my point. This is going to be my
Culture
point.
war
Yes,
issues,
this is going
right?
to be my point, which is
Okay, to make your point, you know, don't
Okay,
be so bashful.
well, let
Sam.
me
get in the
Jeez,
conversation.
Louise, it's hard to get in with you two. This is my point: is that the Republicans are very good in 2024 at using transgender and immigration and crime to divert voter attention and to run on that. And when you're running the show, you can't really use that stuff in the same exact way. Like Winsome Earl Sears can't say transgender issues are out of control under Donald Trump and the border is open and, you know, immigrants are everywhere. You can't do it because
She tried to
for
here,
better or
though.
worse, he closed the border.
She spent a lot of money on it, and it didn't work, which is
And
interesting.
no one believes it.
Spanberger handled it very well, better than the Biden or Harris campaign did, I believe. And on immigration, which was clearly a huge plus for the Republicans in 24, I do think the fact that he's pursuing the policies he is with ICE have at least neutralized the issue. People dislike ICE doing what they're doing almost as much as they dislike Biden's, you know, being too liberal on the border. So
Yeah, there's the thermostat. What's the term? The thermostatic
Right.
response. It's like whatever the thing is that's happening now, people want the opposite. You know. Anyway.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
thermostatic
Interrupt.
politics. Everyone in the
Sorry.
comment section is laughing because this is the first time I've had difficulty getting a word in, and I'm known for interrupting. So congratulations to you two.
I'll shut up.
All right, we're
Sorry.
gonna.
No, that's great. We
no,
should
this
leave. We should declare victory, and you can get the next people
I'm
on.
the
Who'll
one
be
who
more,
needs
who'll
to
be more
shut up.
intimidated
People-
and timid. But Catherine hasn't been here long enough to be intimidated, and I'm too
No,
old to be,
everyone-
and I'm
no, I
too
gotta
old
be
to be
honest,
intimidated. So
Everyone's exceedingly excited to. Oh, someone just called me a douche rocket in the comment section. That's very nice. Everyone's very excited to see Catherine. Not so much me and Bill. Well, too bad, folks, because Catherine and Bill are going to leave us at this juncture. We are bringing in Will Salatin and Andrew Egger when they are ready. Thank you both. All right, we have the great Will Salatin and Andrew Egger. You're gonna have to follow that act, guys. Sorry.
A douche rocket. I don't think
yeah.
that's true, Sam.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'll take it.
I've never heard that term.
A douche rocket?
I
Wow.
love that douche rocket. I gotta use
Yeah. My kids call me that, so I'm used to it. All right, to recap, everyone, because I want to make sure we don't. Oh my, Oh, Lord. Decision Desk HQ projects Jay Jones to win the Virginia
Oh,
Attorney
good.
General
Yeah, you get me in
election.
for the Jay Jones call. Right on.
Wow. It is almost serendipitous that you're joining us, Andrew, because you've been hot on this one. Before we get to you on Jay Jones, just want to recap, because we do not have one of those like cool little trackers or anything like that. We have projections for the Virginia governor race, the Virginia lieutenant governor race, both Democratic gains. Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey is projected by Decision Desk. I haven't seen any other outlet, although I am doing this live feed, so I haven't really checked, say that she is going to win, but it looks very promising for her. And now Jay Jones, which is a clean sweep by Democrats in Virginia. Jay Jones, just to remind people, was caught sending texts to a Republican colleague in the State House talking about wishing to see a Republican lawmaker's death and for his kids to witness the death. Usually stuff that is disqualifying on a human level, but apparently not in this climate. So Andrew, I know you're going to cook on this, so go ahead.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to be our Jay Jones correspondent, right? There's a lot of stuff to talk about. What is this? This is the climate. I mean, you said it, right? I mean, he's running about 10 points behind Abigail Spanberger, who won this thing running away in Virginia, a state that has been pummeled by all the stuff that everywhere has been pummeled by under this administration, but in particular been pummeled by the attacks on the federal workforce and various career employees in the executive branch and yada yada yada. Like, Republicans were not going to do well in Virginia this cycle, and it turns out they have done so poorly in Virginia this cycle that it has allowed even confirmed psycho Jay Jones to waddle across the finish line here. I mean, come on, look, I get it. Most people are not that tuned in. Most people are just, pulling the lever on broad strokes. It's insane that this guy won. It really is insane that this guy won. It's insane that Abigail Spanberger and Barack Obama did a rally with him over the weekend, where they kind of like after weeks of sort of keeping him at a little bit of an arm's length, but not like fully distancing themselves, saying they found his comments, very abhorrent, but not really commenting on whether they thought he got a win. They kind of welcomed him back into the fold at the last minute. Whatever. I guess that's the stuff we all have to put up with at this insanely hyperpolarized moment. That's my Jay Jones spiel. I think I'm really excited for the guy who has said these things to be the attorney general of my state. That's really cool.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Oh,
Yeah,
come
so
on,
that's
Andrew. I mean,
No. It's
haven't
crazy.
you guys ever
hold
sent
on.
a text calling for the death of your opponent? Come on.
I don't have
Just
any opponent.
death of
I
my
have to call for the
colleague.
death of like random passersby. I don't have
Andrew
enough
sends
enemies.
texts to Bill every morning calling for the death of me.
Exactly.
So it just hasn't been leaked to the
I'm gonna
public.
Send Andrew a text
No,
calling
most
Sam
of
a douche
well,
rocket.
I'm already blabbing. We got to go to Will. I
Hold on,
want to talk about the
hold on,
Spanberger stuff later.
One second. Because we do have another pay for comment here, and I'm obligated contractually to read these, and this one especially, because Kelsifer for $5 says, "Nobody puts Sam in a corner." Heart emoji. Thank you, Kelsifer. Really appreciate that. All right. Will, you are a nerd, and you've been going over all of the exit poll data, I presume, because you love facts, or at least data. So what have you, I'm kind of curious if you found something that was intriguing or thought-provoking or different than the kind of conventional wisdom in that data, or just any sort of larger takeaways from it.
Okay, I'll play Bush League analyst here. First of all, Jay
Sure.
Jones. The Jay Jones. I skipped the Virginia governor's race because Spanberger was running away with it. So I looked at the Jay Jones race. Here's something on the text. This goes to Andrew's point. 45% of the voters. These are early exit poll numbers. Everybody should understand the final numbers won't be these numbers, but they'll be pretty close. They'll be in the ballpark. 45% of the people who voted in the Virginia Attorney General race said that those texts, Andrew, were disqualifying. They were disqualifying. Jay Jones got 9% of those votes.
Come on.
That's the exit poll,
man.
man.
Any sense. Okay.
45% of the people said they're disqualifying and then said they're voting for Jay Jones anyway. Now, at the time when I looked at these numbers, the early numbers looked pretty close for Miara. So I thought these 9% are going to make the difference. But apparently not, because if they're calling the race at this point, then it's wider than that margin. Anyway, the point is, people will say they like this happened with Trump, right? People said, I would never vote for somebody who did this, and then they vote for Trump anyway. So it turns out this is not entirely isolated to Trump. Other stuff. you guys were talking earlier about immigration stuff, for example. In both New Jersey and Virginia, in the early exits, most voters said that the Trump administration has gone too far, and those voters have broken over majorities in both states. In New Jersey, they asked the question, should the next governor cooperate with the Trump administration or not cooperate? And to my amazement, 47% of the voters said don't cooperate. That seems like an extreme position to me, don't cooperate with the federal government. But anyway, obviously those—
How much was that, 47?
47 to 49. It was a almost split on whether to cooperate. That, I always thought, you guys, that like sanctuary cities that's an unpopular policy. People want to get rid of this, but like that's an even split in a state that was pretty close. So that kind of amazed me. And then of course there's the Trump numbers. And if you ask me to pick one number that I think is relevant for tonight, it is in New Jersey. Obviously people who supported Trump broke for Citarelli. People who opposed voted against they asked people, what is one reason for your vote Trump, to support him or to oppose him?
Right.
The number that was relevant to me here is 13% of the voters in New Jersey in the governor's race said they were casting their vote to express support for Trump. 3 times as many, 39%, said they were casting their vote to oppose Trump. And of course, over almost unanimously, those people broke respectively Republican and Democrat.
I mean, it's very hard in these states for a Republican to win in that climate. It just is really hard when the voters are yearning to show a big old middle finger to Donald Trump. But I guess the other question I have is, what do Democrats take from that? I mean, this presents interesting questions for Democrats who are currently in a shutdown standoff with Trump, about what to do with respect to Trump. So, not to put you on the spot, Andrew, but like, what do you think? I mean, how do they move off of this? It's wind in the sail stuff, but it does raise some interesting questions about, do you cooperate with this guy? I mean, clearly 47% of those voters said don't. So what do you do?
Yeah, and this is not like idle speculation either. I mean, like all of the reporting about kind of the current state of the shutdown is that we have been in like a small holding pattern this week while both Democrats and Republicans waited to kind of see what happened, from this actual like weigh in from voters in terms of how aggressively to stay dug in. And I think you're totally right, Will. I mean, these are like more aggressive seeming numbers than you would necessarily expect to see from just sort of like a broad cross section of the electorate. I mean, people are mad. You guys were talking about the No King stuff before. I mean, like this whole political moment has been a real like it's had an amazing alchemy for like turning like kind of normie like soccer mom type people into sort of like flag waving radicals who want to see their government take like aggressive action. Obviously that's not the entire electorate that feels that way, but it's a much expanded cross section as well. And I think Democrats are going to have to take that under advisement as they figure out what next steps here. Obviously the flip side is that as the shutdown continues, more and more things continue to break in more kind of like horrible ways. I mean, like the Secretary of Transportation said this morning that by this time next week, we could have parts of our airspace that just aren't accessible to airplanes because there just aren't enough air traffic controllers left.
Not ideal.
And I mean, like it's like stuff is going quite wrong, and somebody's going to need to blink at some point here. So, but yeah, it's definitely a vote of confidence.
Let me interject for a quick programming announcement and another paid commenter. This paid commenter first for $20. S.U says, safe to say we're all nerds here. We're watching 3 men, 2 in sweaters, 1 with a Lincoln framed photo. Right there. Tell us about polls and voting. Keep being nerds, all. Smart is sexy. Thank you, SU. Appreciate that. A lot of people are asking in the comments, where the hell is JVL?
I would have read that one for free. That's good.
Wow. Fair enough. For people who are wondering, JVL, Sarah, and Tim are going to be coming up at 9:15-ish. The reason it's 9:15, we initially said 9, but then Katie Couric actually became available as a guest on this program, and she's going to talk to us at 9 o'clock. So stick around. Katie Couric will be here with Tim at 9, and then 9:15 it's going to be JVL, Sarah, and Tim. And then finally, just down ballot stuff because, look, obviously the governor's races are the ones that people are most intrigued by, and of course the New York City mayoral one is intriguing. But this came across 832. I don't really know who these people are. But Virginia, May Niver, a Democrat, has beaten incumbent David Owen, a Republican, for the third flip of the night to Democrats in the Virginia House. And this stuff matters a lot because Virginia needs to pass a redistricting referendum again in this session if they want to actually do it legally under the state's constitution. Will, I'm going to give you the inverse question of what I gave to Andrew, which is, where do Republicans take this, right? Like you're about to get clocked. Some dude who fantasized about killing his Republican opponent is going to become attorney general of a state. Like, what would you do if you were a national Republican strategist in this climate?
Well, all I can do is channel every Republican strategist I've ever seen, the way they act. And what they do is they find a boogeyman. So they're going to have Zohran Mamdani, presumably. We'll see about that. They're going to have Jay Jones. They're going to, although the problem with Jay Jones is he's going to be functioning as an attorney general, and this whole text thing is going to recede into the background. Mamdani is going to be out there, doing his free everything thing, and they'll be attacking. I mean, there'll be lots more material. So anyway, the point for Republicans is they have this very unpopular person, Trump, who has been the boogeyman, who is clearly in this election motivated a lot of people to turn out for the Democrats. The Republicans desperately need to elevate these guys, but I don't know, guys, just the mayor of New York, the attorney general of Virginia. I just don't see how that adds up. I don't see how you're going to get enough people riled up about that. So in the anger sweepstakes, I just don't think the Republicans have enough fuel to work with.
Can I say one thing, Sam, on the Republican side, as far as Virginia in particular is concerned? Because I think what the primary thing that we are seeing in Virginia tonight is like the death knell of a particular possible future for Republican politics that it looked like might be opening up 4 years ago in Virginia when Glenn Youngkin.
Is this the Glenn Youngkin future?
Governor. Yeah, I mean, that was a shock to a lot of people because the question was, we were just out of Trump. Biden had just been elected. January 6th had gone down. All of that stuff. True. It kind of seemed like Trump that Trump might have poisoned kind of like suburban white collar America against the Republican Party for a long time. And then here comes Glenn Youngkin. And what he shows in that race is actually not at all. If you have like kind of a normie seeming like business guy Republican who like wears his little fleece and like looks like a venture capital guy and is a venture capital guy and is running on like a platform of like good economic sense. And he borrows from Trump some, not all, but some of like the more sharp elbowed culture war stuff. He was not like a squish on trans stuff at all. That is actually maybe a winning coalition, like in the wake of Trump and maybe like a possible future for the Republican Party. He becomes like a huge national star, all this stuff. Then Donald Trump gets reelected, right? And even in the Republican primary, people are like, is Glenn Youngkin maybe going to come save us from this guy? Is he going to jump in at the last minute? And he does not. Like, I think he was right not to do that. I think he would have gotten steamrolled. But like, he doesn't do it. It's very plain. No, actually, we're not ready for like the Glenn Youngkin Republican Party. MAGA is still happening, and MAGA Unchained is happening now, right? And we go back to not only like all the insane stuff that Trump does, but just sort of like the economic like crazy stuff that happens all the time, the tariffs and all of that. And I think that like it's the death of the Glenn Youngkin moment, right? I mean, like Spanberger is going to smash her Republican opponent in a way that, Glenn Youngkin eked out that win. But Winsome Earle-Sears is the current lieutenant governor, right? I mean, she in theory should be the inheritor of this project. But looking at those same CNN exit polls, there are a quarter of voters who think that Glenn Youngkin did a good job who now have pulled the lever for Spanberger. Like the window on that coalition is just closed in this moment. And Trump has closed it by governing the way he has over the past. And one very final thing on this, again, from those exit polls, like as far as the culture war stuff is concerned, you look at, one culture war issue that goes, in the direction of Earle-Sears, which is the trans stuff. About half of the electorate is concerned about this stuff, but only it's only about 10% of the electorate. I think I have this right. Only about 10% of the electorate, like it was sort of like a dispositive thing for them. Basically, here's what it was. She won 80% of the voters who are concerned about that. Meanwhile, you go to the people who are concerned about a culture issue that Democrats really care about, which is the immigration crackdown and the human rights abuses and things like that. And Spanberger cleaned up those voters, 90% of them. So she locked down, a significantly greater percent. It was a more useful moving issue for her. And again, the coalitional thing here.
Let me just quickly read a few more. We got a lot of paid commenters. I'm going to go very quickly through this. Bamsy Carr says, "Love the Bulwark team. Whilst I have you, Will, I've been curious to know where my little pony has gone. I have no clue what that means."
Oh, I got the 20 back here.
Okay, there you go. Wayne W says, "You all are getting all my money." Wayne, you gave us $20 for this comment. I hope that's not all your money. What are your thoughts about public engagement? I hear things about an apathetic public who aren't engaged, but I also see things like King's Rally that show how engaged the public is. I will say that the turnout in these elections is showing an engaged electorate. It just is. And then let me see. Oh, this is very kind. From Glenn Anderson Buick. Sam, you're amazing. Don't underestimate how much you guys are, folks. Well, I don't really know how
that's your mom.
Are they saying any nice things about the rest of us, or are you just reading the ones that are about you?
No. Someone called me a douche canoe, and I read that. Come on, get out of here.
No, rocket.
All right. Here we go. So let's move back to just a program. In about 5 minutes, Democratic strategist Lis Smith is going to be joining the conversation. We're going to talk about what this actually means if we can divine anything for the Democratic Party, which has been this kind of like weird identity crisis moment. But Will, what do you think it means for the Democratic Party in that moment? You want to engage on something else?
I want to comment on what Andrew said, because first of all, Andrew, you took my thunder because you had the number about Youngkin. But in this Virginia governor, in the exit polls in Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, the Republican governor, registered like about a 54, 55%, something like that, approval rating for the Republicans to get wiped like they did with that number for their existing governor says that coalition, they're losing it. They're losing it. They've done something. Maybe incumbency would have done that anyway, but I kind of think that's a bad sign for them. On the other hand, it shows that they could have a coalition. But Andrew was talking about the trans stuff, and you guys were also talking about the immigration stuff. Let me suggest to you that this is reality intruding, because people can say they don't, I don't want trans men in women's locker rooms. I don't want, boys and girls and stuff. But most people this is not a daily problem for them. This is not something they're seeing. It's like something that has to be ginned up by a politician. Oh, somewhere, some kid is playing on somebody's team. The immigration stuff's happening right out there. ICE is out there picking people up. There's confrontations. So this is reality where people are saying, and you guys are right, in the exit polls, most people say, well, a little more than half in Virginia, a little less than half in New Jersey said that Trump said that support for trans rights has gone too far. And those people voted for the Republican nominees. But it's not cutting the way that the immigration stuff is, because it's just not as real. It's not like registering in reality the way that, the immigration stuff is. I just think that's the difference between those two issues.
Well, we were talking about this in the earlier block, and I'm going to stick with my belief, which is that these wedge issues work really well when you're out of power, right? Like you can say, oh, woke trans rights activists are out of control and immigrants are, crossing the border in record numbers and crime's out of control. But when you're in power, you do have to, it's harder to make that argument. It's like, well, yeah, you're going to actually admit that it's happening under your watch, and it just becomes less effective. And I think that's probably what happened here to a degree, which is that people were just sort of either turned off by what Trump did or just thought that's not the most important thing happening in my life right now.
Yeah. And also it's the reality of it. Remember, like when you have people coming across the border and you've got caravans and all this stuff, people look at that and say, we got a problem. Part of the penalty for solving the problem, which is what Trump did, you steal up the border, people aren't coming across. You no longer have a problem you can point to. Instead, what you got is, instead of seeing the caravans, I'm seeing ICE in the streets, I'm seeing confrontations, I'm seeing violence. Right. And suddenly that is the issue. So it's kind of a result of in partly solving the problem and in part the overreach.
Well, a history lesson here, but because we did this for Lauren Egan's column over the weekend, but people forget Ralph Northam. Do you guys remember his race for governor? This happened obviously in 2017, and the big deal right up beforehand was caravans, right? It was like caravans, and Northam was like, I'm not going to allow any sanctuary cities and yada, 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 and he ended up winning by like 9 percentage points, and Spanberger is going to win by more. I just think having that incumbent in the Oval Office that is Donald Trump really matters here. Andrew?
Yeah, the other thing about the Northam race, just to pull off of my 2017 campaign reporter hat for a minute, is that Ed Gillespie, the Republican who was running in that, was like the worst possible messenger to run that like really aggressive culture where he was like the former RNC chair. He's like this extreme, like Northern Virginia, like buttoned up, sweater vest guy who the idea of him like going after his opponent as like being on the side of MS-13 was just sort of ridiculous and very funny even at the time. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And I think like the main thing is like you talk about Trump like kind of having solved one problem and like sort of weirdly that he loses the ability to take political credit for it because it's over and people aren't really thinking about it. But I think the flip side of that is like he would be able to take credit for it if there were not like other problems looming up in people's consciences. Like if he'd solved all the problems, if everything was cool now, he would be getting a lot of credit for that. But I think like is in particular the big economic storm clouds that continue to loom up and all of the disruptions of, again, we're talking about Virginia, the federal workforce stuff is just enormous here. Like all of those disruptions and things like that. I mean, people are going to care about the stuff that they are having anxiety about now. And like he would be getting credit for the border stuff to a greater degree if it were not that like all these other new anxieties are coming just to take the place of the ones that he was capitalizing on before, right? So it's not just that like, Trump did a good job and therefore he's losing now, right? Like he has succeeded in sort of staunching this particular anxiety, but he has replaced it with a lot of other anxieties that has minimized his ability to kind of reap rewards for that.
Let me just add a couple of factoids here as we do this. A race that went totally under the radar, but a man named Peter Hubbard has won the Public Service Commissioner in the special election in Georgia's 3rd District. Why do we care about this? He's the first Democrat to win a state-level race in Georgia in 20 years. So that looks to confirm our belief that this is like a big deal. Not wavish, but it is happening.
No, it cannot.
That's
state level race.
It was a state level race, apparently. Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. It's out there. I will put it into our Slack so you guys can.
I guess, yeah, they were competitive. I guess, yeah, everyone who's won there has been federal races. Huh.
Federal races, yeah. 20 years, a state level race in Georgia. No Democrat has won until tonight, apparently. Yeah, so look, across the board, again, updating folks because we don't have one of those tickers. Abigail Spanberger is coasting. It looks like potentially a double-digit win for governor in Virginia. Mikey Sherrill is on pace to get a robust win, it looks like. I've seen different things about 5 percentage points or so. We do not have results yet for New York City mayoral, but Jay Jones, the controversial attorney general candidate, is on track to win in Virginia as well. So all good signs for Democrats so far. We talked with Hakeem Jeffries about this, Andrew, about like, the government shutdown and all that. How do you think this is going to play into that debate? And then as you talk, I'm going to swap in Lis Smith for Will Salatin. But Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, I wish I'd gotten to hear what Jeffries was saying about that. That was my CNN exit polls crunch time. But look, I mean, the bottom line is that to the extent that anybody is reading the tea leaves here, Democrats have to feel very sort of good, very buttressed, by all of this stuff. Everybody is really like just kind of making sure they have a good hand right now, because as we have said, the shutdown pain is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, right? I mean, like there's been so much talk about SNAP benefits, which are being paid out sort of partially and in a delayed way, all the air traffic stuff that's gone bad, all the federal workers that are not drawing paychecks right now, sort of across the board. There are people who are eyeing the exits within, hopefully the short term. That's going to actually like get down to negotiating brass tacks, and people are figuring out, how strong their various hands are. And Democrats have to feel, I mean, in particular, like they have to feel good about the sort of referendum on the executive actions about the federal workforce.
Well,
that we've seen.
let me add that we've been joined graciously, finally, by Lis Smith, who took a huge swig of wine right before she came on, but also while she was on, as an indication that she seems pretty happy tonight. So Liz, welcome to the show.
First of all, thank you, Sam. But one of my conditions for joining this evening
was that you could drink.
Yeah, exactly. And you know why I'm late? Because Katie Couric just had me on her Substack Live, and she
just couldn't
get enough.
She's coming on this show.
I know. So I'm her warm-up act. So let's go over a little bit late. and keep her
Okay,
winning.
fine. We can pay it back to Katie. Liz, look, thank you for doing this. Liz, for those who don't know, Liz and I go way back to college. So if we seem a little bit like we're sharing insider jokes, it's because we are. But Liz has been in Democrat.
I'm actually wearing Dartmouth sweatpants right now, by the way. All business on top,
You do.
sweatpants on the bottom.
All right, fair enough. I'm not going to make you prove it. You're heavily involved in charting the future of the Democratic Party. I believe your group has been working with candidates like Abigail Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill. Talk to me about what your takeaways from tonight is with respect to where Democrats need to go.
With respect to where Democrats need to go, we need to be a big tent party. We need Zoran Mamdani's, Mikey Sherrill's, and Abigail Spanberger's in our party. And we need to realize that, we should embrace someone like Zoran who can excite young voters and get all these new people to turn out, just as much as we should embrace Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, who's going and talking to Trump voters on the Tennessee border. And that the way forward for our party is to understand that there's no one way to be a Democrat. And so I think tonight sort of proved that with Mikey's win in New Jersey, Abigail's win in Virginia, and Zoran Mamdani's likely big win in New York City tonight.
Is there like a formula? I know Big Tent is like just sort of, yeah, of course, everyone should be Big Tent. I mean, let's be real about it. Like, no one's going to be like, no, I want the tent to be really small. But is there a formula for doing this, or is it more about sort of understanding campaign tactics, how to reach voters, new medias, or mediums, I should say. And obviously Mamdani did it a different way than Spanberger and certainly Sherrill, but how do you think campaigns have changed tactically in the last couple of years that Democrats need to know?
So I think the formula is pretty clear. Talk to voters about the issues they care about. Don't talk to them about issues that you think they should care about, but they don't care about, right? That was in 2024. It's like we were shoving spinach down their throats with democracy and all these things when they wanted us to be talking about affordability and the cost of living and inflation. They wanted us to be reasonable on things like the border. And instead, we were having a completely different conversation with them. So I think that is the formula. And that's the through line between Zoran Mamdani's campaign, Mikey Sherrill's campaign, and Abigail Spanberger's campaign, is that they all led with affordability. Now, in terms of tactics, yes, tactics are important, especially as we see local press dying, right? You need to sort of be able to create news, generate attention yourself. But it's going to be different for different people in different races. There are some races that I think we've got to understand that. Like Vicente Gonzalez in Texas is not going to be on TikTok, and that's okay. But you've got to be able to communicate and answer tough questions and reach your voters where they consume news. It's going to be very different in New York City versus New Jersey versus Virginia.
But I have a theory that
South Texas.
No doubt. I have that. I agree. But I guess my theory is that like you just need to be in the conversation, right? It's like you can't kind of go quiet for days on end. It doesn't matter how you get in the conversation. You just need to be in the conversation.
Right. And some of the ways that you're in the conversation, you can force your way in, right? With social media, all that. But you can also force your way in by taking stances or forming alliances that seem like sort of counter conventional wisdom. For instance, Abigail Spanberger sent a pretty clear message in Virginia when she stood with the police union there that endorsed a Democrat for governor for the first time since 2009. And haven't seen a lot of Democrats recently standing with police unions. And that's a way to command attention just as much as talking about halal inflation is.
The other thing, though, is Democrats often kind of run scared around issues, right? It's like, I don't want to talk about, they don't want to engage in the immigration stuff. They don't want to engage in the crime stuff. They don't want to engage in the trans stuff. And I don't think they've solved that. I really don't. I think there's a lot of antipathy, a lot of anxiety around it. Yeah. Now, in this case, it was easier to focus, just say, we're going to focus on cost of living. But at some point, you do need to figure out how to deal with those issues, right?
Yeah, you do. And you need to understand where your voters are on these issues, and that a lot of the time they're not where, the left flank of the party is. when voters complain about crime, you can't say, well, it was lower 40 years ago. When they complain about the border, you can't say, oh, that's a Fox News talking point, like turn off cable. When they complain about inflation, you can't say it's lower in Sweden. You've got to meet voters where they are and understand that these things are not distractions to them. Even when you're talking about something as fraught as trans girls playing in girls sports, or trans women playing in trans women playing in women's sports. To a lot of voters, that isn't a distraction. And we've got to have candidates who can speak to it and speak to the fairness concerns that voters have, the safety concerns voters have, and not just do, unfortunately, what Kamala Harris did in 2024, which was, put your head in the sand and hope the issue goes away.
Let me just update people again. Abigail Spanberger has won the governor's seat in Virginia. Mike Sherrill is on track to do it and has been called in New Jersey. Jay Jones is on track to win the attorney general seat in Virginia, very controversial candidate. Down ballot, a lot of Democratic victories too. Last I've seen on the Twitters, Democrats on track to pick up about a dozen seats in the Virginia House of Delegates tonight. Could be the largest Democratic majority in many decades. We're going to bring in, I can't believe I'm actually doing this introduction now because, little Sam would have been shocked by this. We're going to bring in Katie Couric to join the conversation. And I'm reuniting Katie with Liz, apparently, because you guys were talking already.
Yes. Hi. So good to see you, Sam, and love Liz. So this is fun for me. And, as somebody who's really disturbed by the Trump administration and the things that they've been doing and someone who's been more outspoken than previously in my career about the dangers of a lot of these policies, I am delighted to see that Abigail Spanberger has won in my home state of Virginia. Hi, Tim.
Hey, Katie.
There's Tim Miller, folks.
And really excited about Mikey Sherrill, who I think is just a phenomenal candidate and a phenomenal leader. And I'm glad that Prop 50 has been approved, because you got to do something. Democrats can't just sit around if they're doing what they're doing in Texas. And I think Zohran Mamdani, I think Liz was saying this earlier, has really captured the imagination. I know he's made a lot of New York voters verklempt, but having said that, I mean, I think he is so dynamic. And what Liz was saying earlier to me, and then also to you, Sam, I disagree that people, I really believe income inequality and affordability is the cornerstone of a lot of the problems in this country, and to address it directly to voters and hopefully to make people's lives easier. As Bernie Sanders told me not long ago, when 1% of the 1% of Americans own more wealth than the bottom 93%, it's just unacceptable. Where did Liz go? Her baby might be.
Oh, no. I let Liz. Liz was texting me.
Liz going away. Wait, I had a question for Liz.
No. Liz, bring her back. Liz was just going to go get more wine. She said
Seriously?
one of the conditions she said she would come on if she was allowed to drink.
Well, I'm glad
we are totally fine with that,
because I'm eating mint chip ice cream.
I got a Coca-Cola Classic. I got to behave on weeknights.
I put a little fireball in here. So yeah, no.
I just get a wine. Liz and Katie, can we just live out and girl power out for a second? There's a lot
holy shit. Wait, you're talking to the women about this?
Yeah.
And I don't love to do like the identity politics.
I know you don't.
I
know you don't. But here's the thing. Some Democratic ladies have had a couple bad elections recently. I don't know if you noticed at the top of the ticket, we had some L's. And there's some, people in my life, liberal women, not me, obviously. I have nothing but faith in women who are like, we might just need to put the dudes up first. But we have got Sherrill, Spanberger, Hashimi. Is there something to be said about the types of campaigns they ran? Or is there, or Liz, are you just going to totally get rid of the identity? Or just you refuse to engage on this? You don't see
Well, I'm glad that you, for once in your life, favor women over men. Let me just say that.
There's a first for everything, Liz.
I don't think that's true of Tim. Is it, Tim?
Well, I'm gay.
In profession and personality.
I went to an all-boys high school.
Sorry.
I have only brothers. I'd
funny.
make an exception for you, Katie. Anyway, let's hear your answer first.
What am I, chop a liver over here?
Yeah. Well, we have
Get to the answer. Good Lord. Where are we going here?
Well, I don't even know, man. But yes, candidate quality matters. And both Mikey and Abigail had different types of backgrounds, right? Mikey, federal law enforcement, they're both, and had been a pilot in the Army, a helicopter pilot in the Army. Abigail had been the CIA, brought down some bad dudes from what I hear, and was endorsed by police unions and ran a different type of campaign, signaling that she's a different type of Democrat. And I think that's why both of them were able to likely overperform Kamala Harris in 2024. And we shouldn't judge candidates just based on superficial characteristics, identity characteristics, because I too shared some of that anxiety. And during, I'm with majority Democrats, right? And we, both Abigail and Mikey are majority Democrats. And there was some agita in New Jersey in the primary that a woman candidate might not be the best idea after nominating Kamala. And I'm glad that she has helped shattering that myth.
Well, hell yeah, you should.
Hold on. I need to jump in here because we have a little bit of developing news. Zohra Mamdani, according to Decision Desk HQ, is projected to be the next mayor of New York City as of 9:03 p.m.
Mayors.
So
3 minutes. 3 minutes. Yeah.
I want to get to Zohra next, but Katie, just do you have any thoughts on that? And I guess in addition to 2 women governors, we got 2 deep state. And as you mentioned, the CIA. So maybe we just need more CIA agents running in the Democratic Party, TBD. Or what do you think? Is there anything? Is there excitement? You've got a lot of women in your audience.
I'm very excited. I have 3 women on my team here jumping around. And, listen, they're both incredibly impressive candidates, not incredibly impressive women. They're just incredibly impressive people. And by the way, Mikey was in the Navy, not the Army. Liz, just FYI, she went to the Naval Academy and was a Navy pilot.
I should know that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I won't tell her that you got that wrong. But
facts matter here, Liz.
This is live. This is caped. Yeah.
I do think that there were some stumbles. Liz and I talked about it earlier in Mikey Sherrill's campaign. She almost did a bit of a tiny little Sarah Palin moment, not quite, where she really was stumped when she was asked what her first order of business would be as governor. I'm being hyperbolic here, but it wasn't a good moment for her. And but having said that, I think, man, they worked their asses off. They kept their eyes on the prize. Liz, you tell me, I thought they were both incredibly disciplined candidates. I think sexism, honestly, you guys, it is pervasive. It still exists. Women are judged differently than men, no matter
I agree.
what, and so I think there was inevitably some sexism that infused this campaign, less so in Virginia because both candidates were women,
right?
Yeah. But in New Jersey, a little bit more so. But I'm excited, and it's about time, that we start electing more strong female leaders. And let's face it, they're better than men. Come on, guys.
And
okay.
Hold on.
Zero objections from here. Yeah,
can we address the subtle flex from Katie mentioning the Sarah Palin moment? Because she was the one.
I noticed.
She was the one who got the Sarah. Okay. All right.
Actually, it does. I would be remiss. Actually, I want to ask you about this, Katie. We're in this weird media moment too, right? Where the networks are. It's hard to sort of qualify what's happening with them, right? But new leadership seemingly, trying to ingratiate themselves with this White House. People are getting the news in different ways, but they also don't really trust the news as much. I haven't heard you speak to what's happening both at your old home at CBS, but also in general with these corporate networks and how they're reacting and covering this presidency.
Did you have 8 bodyguards at any point, Katie, when you were there? I don't remember. No? Okay.
Are there bodyguards
for Barry? He didn't. I wanted an answer, but he.
I want an answer too. I was just wondering. I'm curious what you think about the networks.
Listen, it was very different time. I was there from 2006 to 2011. I was telling my friends here that one asked me what was the most exciting presidential race you've ever covered. And of course, it was 2008 and Barack Obama, because it was such a historic moment. And, you know, listen, I'm disappointed. There's no way around it. This corporate pressure on these journalists is really criminal, in my view. I think that we have to be purveyors of the truth. And I think that clearly, I think Nora did a good job when she interviewed Donald Trump, but she didn't call him out on, okay, I'd like to hear, Tim, what you have to say. I mean, listen, I think if she had called him out on every single thing he said, it would have just been a massive shit show. And I think that given sort of what she could do, but the idea that Barry Weiss was down there and they were in Mar-a-Lago, honestly, it was a little too cozy for my taste. And I think it's really dangerous. And, you know, listen, I have spoken out, Sam. I wrote something about Sherry Redstone and how just disgusting that this quid pro quo was before the merger, and paying Donald Trump $16 million. And, you know, I was disappointed ABC did the same thing. They should have just, someone told me that they should have just issued an apology immediately, or just a correction, not an apology. I'm sorry, a correction. That it was sexual assault and not rape, or whatever the problem was. But yeah, I think it's actually really worrisome and really upsetting. And I think that's one reason that a huge swath of Americans don't trust mainstream media anymore. I mean, there are a whole bunch of reasons why they don't, but certainly when they know that these corporate overlords are saying, don't piss off the president, you know, how much can they trust their journalists?
I mean, the most ridiculous thing to me is what's happening at that's ridiculous too, but the Pentagon press corps is like,
that is so
unreal. Laura Loomer's credential now? It's crazy.
Laura Loomer, you know, I was a Pentagon correspondent, and I called David Martin, my former colleague at CBS, probably covered the Pentagon longer than any reporter. And I said, David, can you do an interview? This is so outrageous. And it's just so disgusting that they're making reporters sign this thing that they have to clear their journalism with people at the Pentagon, or they have to have have to, you know, give back their passes. And I love David Martin, but here's an example of corporate ownership. He said, let me ask. And then he came back to me and he said, the Washington bureau chief said I should politely decline.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to leave in 2 seconds.
You need to leave now.
Yes, but I have to read one breaking news alert for Schadenfreude reasons. JD Vance's half brother,
I saw that,
has lost by an overwhelming margin as he tried to become the mayor of Cincinnati. I know Liz is very happy about this one. So
Sam keeps telling me. I just a little behind the scenes, really quick. Sam said that he was going to let me run this period with Katie because me and Katie are friends, and he wasn't going to be involved. And every time I tried to speak, he interrupted me and shut me up. And he was like,
I think it was the other way.
Okay.
Every time you
was just so excited that Katie here.
Fighting over me.
Tim,
I'm leaving. Goodbye.
Let's get our
Thank you
revenge
all.
on Sam. No,
Blah,
Sam,
blah.
you're not leaving yet. You're not leaving yet. He left.
Left.
He said Schadenfreude. It's Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude. It's German.
Oh,
Sam. We need to do Zoran talk.
Freude. Tim.
Schadenfreude.
Schadenfreude.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Katie Couric obviously does. We need to do a little Zoran talk for it. We're going to get in about 5 minutes here. We got the next level coming. JVL and Sarah coming on. But in addition to our girl power victories with Abigail and Mikey, the sex pest is lost. So there's something to that. There's maybe some synergy to that with Andrew Cuomo going down. I want to hear from both of you. Liz first, just because you have a kind of a reputation of being more on the center left in New York and kind of having fought some of the folks on the more left side of the party over various things. You came out for Zoran. You did like a Stanny selfie photo with him earlier this week. I saw on social media. Like what was the Zoran magic for you as maybe not the natural part of his audience in the Democratic Party?
So I've gotten that a lot, right? Why are you for Zoran? Like, why are you, when you're, ideologically maybe a little bit different what people I think sometimes forget, I was for the 37-year-old gay mayor of South Bend running for president, right? And
Yeah.
I think
And he was a Marxist kind of in college.
He was not a Marxist in college. His
college,
father
a
was a
little bit.
Gramsci scholar. What are you talking about?
Gramsci's pretty left.
Gramsci scholar. There I am doing that, but and I think that it's time for change. It's time for new blood. It's time to take a risk on people who will inject new energy into the city, new ideas into the city. And I ranked Zoran in the primary. I voted for him in the general because I want someone of integrity to lead the city. I want someone who excites people in the city to lead the city. And we just don't need to keep settling for the same thing over and over and over again. And
Your
that's
cat
what
is on your counter, by the way.
I always, my cats, I'll put it that way. My cats love Tim, but I think that Zoran infused a lot of integrity and energy into this race, and his tone, I think I said this to Katie earlier, it was different from Bernie Sanders or AOC. You know, he went on Fox News, he went on the Bulwark, not exactly known as being friendly to DSA people, and he talked with Derek Thompson from the abundance movement about policies, and I think is offering a bigger tent view of his views than a lot of his colleagues or compatriots or whatever you want to call them in the DSA are doing. And that's why people like me felt sort of comfortable voting for him. And certainly in the general, after he said that he was going to extend the offer to Jessica Tisch to stay on as NYPD commissioner, that was, I think a lot of people like me breathed a big sigh of relief.
All right, Katie, what is Zoran? We'll be listening for him later. I'll be interested to see how he kind of defines his win and speaks about it. But I'm wondering, you have more of a you have a normie audience, you have regulars. I'm sure you have some DSA people in there too. But there's just a lot of his excitement was broad and beyond that. And everyone tries to get a piece at when there's what is the line? Victory has 1,000 fathers. Everybody is like talks their own book on this. Like he won because he talked affordability. He won because he was happy. He won because he was good at social media. He won because he was a socialist. He won because he was out there front on the Gaza crisis. Well, what's your sense for what was the reason why he animated people and won so handily tonight? I mean, 3 minutes after the polls closed.
3 minutes.
I mean, I think that it's all of those things, Tim, but I think he so energized so many New Yorkers, particularly young New Yorkers. My daughter is 29. She lived in Brooklyn. She just moved to Charlottesville where she's getting her PhD in history. Not sure what she's going to do with that. She wants to be a public intellectual. I'm like, go for it.
Okay.
But she and her friends, my daughter's quite progressive. We're so excited about Zoran. And from the get-go, I think she went to his first fundraiser. And I think that he represents a new way of doing business. I think he represents a departure from these kind of, the Andrew Cuomo's of the world and the Curtis Lewas who've been around forever. I mean, I think he, if he had a stronger opponent, I think we might be having a different conversation tonight, but there's just no question. He was exciting. And to Liz's point, was new and fresh. I think he was brilliant at using social media. And I don't understand why more Democrats, I know they're trying. Chris Murphy's really trying. Mark Kelly's trying. A lot of Democrats are trying. I think Pete has, for a long time done well, but Pete could loosen up a little bit on social media. I think there was just so much. He is so.
Chasten could tighten up a little bit. Pete could loosen up. Meet in the middle.
But you know what I mean? Like Pete could feel, I think Zoran had this gift of always feeling very spontaneous and just being warm and open. I don't know if you saw the SNL spoof about him smiling after everything he said. And I thought about it and he did, but it seemed genuine and warm and his candidacy and his campaign felt expansive and welcoming. I know, I live on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. He did not do well there. you know, for a lot of reasons, for taxes and for, I think, a lot of my Jewish friends, as I said to Liz before, were really uncomfortable with some of his language, what he put on social media on October 8th, his lack of outreach, what they interpreted as a lack of outreach and compassion following October 7th. But, and then I obviously have a lot of Jewish friends who did vote for him. So I think he represents a new generation of leaders. And I think people are starving for that because it's just not working. And they want to give somebody new and fresh a chance. I mean, the same reason I think they elected John F. Kennedy. You know, he was the future. And the Democratic Party is so friggin' old and tired, and people are just sick of them. And so I think even people who might have felt ambivalent were like, we want to give this guy a chance.
Right. And
Cuomo-
so much of politics, right, is how you make people feel about themselves and their vote, right? And you saw that with Barack Obama in 2008, where a lot of people took a flyer on him. You know, Indiana went for Barack Obama in 2008 by 1 point. Now I think in 2024 it went for Trump by 21 points. But people are willing to take a flyer on people who seem to be reaching out in good faith and make them sort of feel good about politics again. And I think that's what Zoran Mamdani brought to the process here. Was he wasn't scolding, he wasn't attacking people. He was saying, I just want to make your life more affordable. And that
also, Liz, don't you think he did what so many Democrats, I think, have failed to do, or at least done it as well, is that he presented a real vision. You know, whether he's going to be able to make good on some of these promises, I think remains to be seen. But at least he had very specific goals that he ran on. And I think it wasn't because it wasn't all anti-establishment necessarily. Right. It was something he was for, not what he was against.
100%.
All right, ladies, we got to get to the next level. I love you. Thank you so much for coming. Just for a little laugh before we leave, I went to look it up since Katie said that Zoran hasn't done that well on the Upper East Side. So the results are still coming in. But right now, Cuomo's plus 33 on the Upper East Side. Mamdani is plus 82 in Bushwick, though. Can somebody find the Cuomo voter in Bushwick? Anyway, everybody, I appreciate you all for coming on. Lis Smith, an old friend. Katie Couric, a new friend. Appreciate you guys. We'll be talking to both of you soon. We got JVL and Sarah coming in here in a second, and I'm passing the baton to JVL because you're watching a live version of the Next Level podcast right now. How you doing, guys?
Boy, am I super, super unhappy that you didn't bring me on with Katie Couric, because I am a longtime Katie Couric super fan. Was desperate to get to meet her. Thought maybe you'd introduce me to one of your cool friends, but nope. I just sat here in the corner.
I'm sure we could get you on the Katie Couric Instagram. We'll be working on that. You got to get yourself an Instagram first to start, I think, would be the first step.
Sure you do.
You know, getting on
Sarah, did you just cut your hair?
Oh, I knew we were going to start with this. Let's just get it out of the way.
What
Guys,
happened?
I got a haircut. They went very short. It'll grow back. Everyone
the
calm
lesbian
down.
thing.
Okay.
We're trying to
It's great. It's great. I just wanted to make sure that we could all say it out
everyone
loud.
calm down.
I'm calm.
Yeah, we got to get out of the way. Guys, big night, exciting night. I don't know about
wait
you.
until I start the
JDL's in his
show.
blue.
You wait till I start the show. I'm running this show. Hello, everyone. This is JVL. Welcome to the Next Level. I'm here with my best friends, Sarah Longwell and Tim Miller of the Bulwark. We are live from New York and Virginia, and eventually from California and Proposition Land, and also from New Jersey, which is a place I hear is wonderful. And we are going to be doing a show for you live. It'll wind up getting posted onto the Next Level feed for people who weren't able to be with us live later on. So bear with us. It'll be a little bit rougher and more wheels off than normal. Guys, not a big night, a huge night for Democrats, I think. And I would like to start in Virginia, if that is okay with you guys. It was called first. Abigail Spanberger won very big. It looks like right now she's trending towards like 55% vote share. If so, it'd be the biggest vote share for any Democrat in at least 30 years in the gubernatorial race. And Dems look like they're going to have a 56-44 lead in the House of Delegates. Sarah, let's go to you first.
I mean, this is a big victory for the normies. Look, here's the thing about Virginia that I think is super interesting. First of all, every single county in Virginia shifted blue. She is picking people up. And so I think what's happening, we won't know until we get it all in, but as best I can tell, what's really happening is she won all of our people, right? The turnout in Virginia is extremely high, not as high as the presidential year, but it's up there. And so I think she is winning all the Democrats that turn out that are like, the college educated suburban voters, a lot of the Bulwark types, maybe people who weren't Democrats 10 years ago, but they are now. She's won all the normies, but there's also clearly a ton of Youngkin Spanberger voters. And the thing that I was looking at, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I had like a little bit of election night PTSD about Loudoun County. And when you look at her, Loudoun County is the county in Virginia that when it came in on election night 2024, we all said,
uh-oh.
Like,
I was like,
this
was that
is
a
not-
mistake? I remember we're texting underneath. I was like, is this a
I was asking my
ballot
team, they're
counting
running
error?
me pieces of paper in. And I was like, this can't be right. And that was really the beginning of the end, was Loudoun County. She's destroying in Loudoun County. And it's a good, this is, as we're just thinking about this from a nationalized politics standpoint, the idea of running the right people in the right places, like people are going to want, I actually sort of like the fact that Mamdani and Abigail and Mikey are all kind of on the same night, because it allows you to look at what the big tent could really look like, where you run the right people in the right places, right? For the places they're in. Because Virginia is the kind of place that will overwhelmingly reject a MAGA candidate in favor of a normie if you give them a normie that's not some old school like Terry McAuliffe, and that runs a decent campaign.
Yeah, I have a lot of positive to say. I have like a tiny balloon pop on all of the excitement just in. These are all places also that Kamala Harris won, right? So I think that a real big tent of the Democratic Party is going to need to include people kind of even beyond the Zoran to Abigail. I just think that's something for everybody just to think about
100%.
as far as tonight. This is relatively, like, the tent needs to be even bigger than Zoran to Spanberger or Cheryl, whichever one you think is more moderate. That said, Spanberger wins, and you mentioned Loudoun. I want to go even further out into the exurbs there, Spotsylvania County. So you get out past so for people who've been in DC, you kind of get out, either past Dulles Airport or you kind of go the other way south down towards Richmond, and you get into the real exurbs. Spotsylvania County has not been won by a Republican in decades. Trump won it by, I think, 16.
Sorry, you mean it hasn't been won by a Democrat?
Excuse me, thank you. It hasn't been won by a Democrat in decades. My apologies. Trump won by 17 in 2016. For example, Youngkin won by 20 in 2021. Spanberger's won it by 2 tonight. And so, I think that tells you a lot. We're going to learn more, I think, in New Jersey about how things looked in the Hispanic areas. But, just kind of looking at one Hispanic precinct in Virginia and Manassas out there by Dulles Airport, that was a place that Trump overperformed. Spanberger's now doing better than Biden or Harris did there. So, I think it's kind of an across the board thing, but it's noteworthy that, there's big turnout in blue areas. And Virginia in some ways is an outlier because of Northern Virginia, the government workers, are there. So that is maybe a little bit different than you'll see in some other states, given the shutdown and Doge and all that. But the fact that she's improving in all of the places, including somewhere like Spotsylvania County, I think is pretty telling. And I guess my other thought about Virginia, maybe it's worth just chopping it up, is in the context of the shutdown. I think the Democrats gained a lot of leverage in the shutdown tonight, right? I think there have been kind of everyone can make an argument. There can be polls, there can be questions about, who is the shutdown hurting, who is it helping. It's kind of hard to make the case if you're the Democrats that your strategy on the shutdown hasn't been working when you run up, Assad-like margins among government employees who are being affected by this in Virginia in an actual election.
Hey, JVL, just real quickly on these numbers, though, just because somebody brought up, Tim, I guess, brought up these are places that Harris won. That is true, but she won by +6 in Virginia.
Yeah.
Abigail Spanberger is putting up, it is possible that she is, I had predicted that she'd be up 10, like I had kind of stretched it. Yeah. And then I got to tell you, I promised my team I would take them to Vegas if Spanberger went 13 plus, and
Vegas, baby.
And Cheryl's got to do +7. She's got to do 7+. So we're still waiting on that. I'm not sure she'll hit that.
6, 7.
But
yeah,
she might. I'm very worried. I made it. I thought I set the numbers high enough that it would be tough to get, but I think we might get there.
Or Sarah's got to go to Vegas. Yeah, no, Abigail Spanberger is doing Gerald Belial's level numbers.
Oh, AP just called Cheryl.
Yeah, no, that's race is over. The Jersey race is over.
Yeah, no, I know, but Decision Desk had been the only place that had called it so far. So if the AP called it, the margins are what's going to matter here, because it's the kind of blowout. Even Winsome Sears can't claim that election was rigged at a double-digit blowout. She'll try, probably.
She could try. All right, so let's move on to Jersey then. Let's talk a little bit of Jersey. Mikey Sherrill outperforming the polls and Kamala Harris, looking very, very good. I'm a little surprised. I don't want to say hugely surprised. I think when you and I talked about this, Sarah, I'd said anywhere from +3 to +8 would be in the realm of yeah, okay, I could see that. She's +15 right now.
Yeah, I will say that's not gonna narrow.
That is gonna narrow, but I don't know. She could wind up +8, +9.
I know. I'm gonna have to take everyone to Vegas.
That's not a crazy thing. Yeah. She's hitting. She is just hitting numbers all over. And I did a deep dive on this today in the Triad, and
Triad was very good today, JL.
Thank you. It was very nice of you to point it out. Dog shit numbers. Not that I'm bitter about that, but I would say, again, just looking at raw vote totals, she's going to be much closer to what the Democrats pull in a presidential year in terms of raw numbers. And I don't think she's going to be at the 2017 Chris Murphy margin, which was +15.
Phil Murphy.
Sorry, Phil Murphy, different Murphy.
It's not your state, so you wouldn't know the governor.
Yeah, they're all the same. When you're in the city looking out to the burbs, like in Connecticut and Jersey, who can tell the Murphys apart? The Dropkick Murphy. Yeah. Anyway, I just, it's pretty big. And Jack Ciattarelli is not a bad candidate. He's actually a reasonably good fit for New Jersey. He gets the advantage of having run last time. So he is both an incumbent in the sense that a bunch of people just pulled the lever for him 4 years ago, but he's also, the change candidate running against the, incumbent Democratic Party. It's just pretty impressive. And I don't know, I was very angry at Mikey Sherrill for not simply telling voters the real truth about the world, which is that New Jersey has always been an expensive state. It's always going to be an expensive state. And they should just shut their traps and be grateful for it, because New Jersey is so great. And I guess this is why I don't run political campaigns.
Yeah.
You would be such a bad politician, just so bad at it.
Seems like Mikey's instinct was right on that. I just wanted to, on the Hispanic stuff, I just look, if you look at Passaic County, which is the highest share of Latinos in the state, that's the inverse of what I was talking about in Virginia. This was a traditionally Democratic county, obviously Latino county. Democrats had won forever, and had flipped to Trump for the first time and forever. This last time, Trump won it by a couple points. Right now, Mikey is winning Passaic County by 20. The little Nate Cohn mini needle estimate is that she's going to end up winning it by 10. Whatever. Anywhere between 10 and that's a huge shift among Hispanic voters. in particular. And I just think that that speaks
Well,
obviously to immigration, also economy.
We'll see. So here's what I would tell people to look at. I've been trying to follow the returns in Union City. Union City is in Hudson County. It's like right on the other side of the bridge. It's like 86% Hispanic.
Yeah.
So huge concentration of Hispanics. And here is the Trump vote share over his 3 elections. In 2016, he got 19% of the vote in Union City. Then in 2020, he got 28%. In 2024, he got 41%. So he gained 22% over the course of his 3 runs.
Yeah.
I
They
will
liked what they saw.
I will be very interested, especially looking at Will Salatan. I don't know if you guys saw Will when he was on, but he's been deep in the exit polls. And I think in New Jersey, I'm pretty sure the New Jersey exits, it's like 53% of respondents said, according to the early exits, Trump's immigration stuff has gone too far. I will be interesting to see what that does to the Trump share in Union City, and to see if that pushes him back towards his 2020 number, maybe even closer to his 2016 number. That'll be pretty interesting.
I don't want to. Sorry to go back to Virginia for just one second, but if we can,
we're doing it live.
We talked. Yeah, we're doing it live. So we talked about obviously top of the ticket, Spanberger's heading for a blowout, such a big blowout that she appears to be pulling Jay Jones well over the line, which was one of the big questions. Was would he?
Jay Jones might outperform Kamala Harris.
He might. That is that, and I think those are the kinds of nuggets that are going to speak to how big this was. And the Jay Jones thing to me is really interesting. So we had done a Virginia focus group episode. We talked to a lot of ticket splitters. And I there clearly are a lot of ticket splitters. Like, he's going to run well behind Spanberger. But I do think it speaks to the level of anger among Democrats, not just where they said, I'm voting blue all the way down, but also where they said, and I'm not endorsing this, I'm just telling you what I think voters said, is that they're like, you know what? I am tired of us trying to police our own side when the right does zero of that. Like, I hear this in the focus groups all day long. Like, they're basically like, I will not, these moral lines that you, Sarah, would like people to draw still. Like, we're done drawing them. We're not going to weaken ourselves. And I think that is, I think temperamentally, you are starting to see a shift in voters saying, like, I'm blue no matter who.
Yeah.
No,
I guess
you don't think so?
Well, I mean, I think you can overstate that. What's the let's pull it up right now. I mean, Spanberger's up 13, and what? He's up like 4, 5, and so she's running way ahead of him, and she ran way ahead of him, and particularly in the northern part of the state. So there was a decent. I mean, in this day and age, like, any ticket splitting,
a lot of
is a
ticket
pretty big
splitters
deal.
still.
Yeah. So it's not enough. I hear you though. I mean, look, I think that partisan in this moment, all of us are so driven by negative partisanship, and the degree to which people are driven by negative partisanship means that they're going to be motivated by the dislike of the other side, right? More than judging on their side. And right now, just I've pulled up here, so it's 12.5 basically for Spanberger to 4 for Jones. So a decent split.
I guess for me, I would say that in a different world, in the pre-Trump era, that would have been race ending. Like, those texts come out and they're like, no way. And this time they basically like, you know what? No, we're going to muscle it through for better or worse because we think our voters are going to be there anyway. Like, enough of them. And I think before this, I might have been like, I don't know, guys. People still care about this stuff. We heard from a lot of voters who do. So I believe that those voters exist in real numbers. I just think there are enough people now who are like, all bets are off.
I mean, I'm sure that'll end well for the country. Very quickly, Chris LaCivita coming in hot, tweeting out, a bad candidate and bad campaign have consequences. The Virginia governor's race is example number 1. So I guess he's not going to say it's stolen. Got that going for him.
Well, he would know.
I wonder why it is that the Virginia
he received about $1
is where he'll
million
say
from
that
the
it was a
Albanian
bad-
fascist party. The New York
Yeah.
Times reported today, so he knows about a strong candidate versus a weak candidate. He's doing pretty
He
well.
and Tony Fabrizio, there's no scumbags these guys won't work for.
All right, Mamdani. The most interesting thing to me about this race is that they're now over 2 million votes. Biggest turnout in New York City mayoral election since 1969. That's pretty impressive because this wasn't like a super tight race. Like he just, I don't like the dude got people excited in a way that's real, like that's really real. That's pretty interesting. I don't think he plays anywhere outside of New York City, but it does show a template for like just super forward looking, not negative.
It's
be
anti-establishment,
young.
though. It's anti.
It
Look,
is.
Here's
Yeah.
the thing. Here's the thing about the Zoran. I'm interested to see how he frames it tonight in his victory speech and how he frames himself, because everybody wants to try to frame him for themselves. But like the Democrats need to figure out how to engage voters who are not engaged in politics. Barack Obama did that, and no Democrat has done it since him.
Yep.
And if you look at
And Trump did it.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. If you look at the vote cast,
Yeah.
this is the thing that people do not understand. I'm just going to repeat it till I'm blue in the face. If we had mandatory voting in this country, Trump would have won by a lot more.
Way
Like
more.
a lot
Way
more.
more.
Like not like close. Like out of the people who didn't vote, they were extremely Trumpy. So how can Democrats do better with those people and reach those people either via persuasion or by taking the ones that would have voted for Harris and getting them out? And Mamdani figured out how to do it, in part by being deeply anti-establishment. In part, I do not think that, I sometimes like some of the Mamdani supporters got mad when they're like, why did everybody ask him about Israel all the time? It's like, he brought it up all the time. He chose to bring it up a lot, and it helped him a lot. I obviously there's some blowback among Jewish voters in certain parts of the state as well. It cut both ways, but there was a big group of people who were not engaged in the last election, who care about the plight of Palestinians, who he excited. So that's one element. Optimism is one. Social media is one. Like there are a lot of different elements, and I think that some Democrats will be able to take from some and some from others, but it cannot be a status. The one thing that is definitely true is if you're going to engage those people, you cannot be a status quo politician, and you just can't blow. There's no sense not just acknowledging the reality of the fact that he engaged a lot of people with that combination of tactics.
Yeah, can I just say also on Mamdani, the thing that he did is he focused on affordability. I mean, he was like, the rent is too damn high guy, but like for serious. And he really did focus on the idea that the city is too
My
expensive.
guy was great. He was serious. I was like, I've been saying for years, more people should be copying him. That dude was a visionary.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that guy knows what people were feeling. And this is the thing Mamdani did. I think sometimes when people say social media, it's easy to be like, okay, well, he made TikToks or whatever. That's not what he did. I mean, that is what he did. But he went around the city and talked to people and filmed himself talking to people. And people see themselves reflected back in the people that he was listening to. And the fact people feeling heard right now in this moment, I sound a little bit like a lib when I talk, but like people did want to feel heard. They wanted somebody that showed up. And so like, yeah, there's and this is somebody in the chat said something like the Bulwark talking heads, which I guess they mean us, needs to understand that the DSA is the future of the anti-Trump coalition.
Maybe.
Okay. I don't think that's the takeaway from tonight. I think the takeaway is that if you run Democrats that fit the state well, okay, Zoran Mamdani doesn't play well in the rest of the country. I don't think it's the future of the Democratic Party writ large. If Zoran Mamdani had run in Virginia, he would have gotten against Winsome Earl.
I think you would have won. Actually,
it might have been tight. Actually, yeah, yeah. But like, you want a 13-point blowout. Yeah, but the point stands, and I think actually the way that people should think about this, and Democrats, I want people to think about a world in which maybe you put aside the idea that the thing we have to wrestle with is a constant Dems need to be more moderate or Dems need to be more progressive. Maybe just drop that rope for a second and think Democrats need to nominate people that work in those states. In Virginia and in New Jersey, it was going to be people who were kind of normie Dems. I mean, you want to do some pundit accountability? I think we gave them a little bit of a hard time, as much as I like both of them, for running kind of vanilla-ish campaigns, just things that weren't that exciting.
I copped to that.
It didn't. Yeah, right. No, you did. And I'm going to cop to it too. The fact is that was clearly right for those states. You said, Tim, you aren't going to cop to that?
I'm not going to cop to it because I think my take at the time was this is probably right for winning the states, but
that's exactly what you said.
I
You
usually
were right.
would have said it. I was like, this is about my emotional needs. And my emotional needs is I need a normie Dem that has some Riz.
That's right.
And so, but yeah, no, that was right for the state.
But think about it more in this is what it could look like to fashion a coalition that is a big tent that includes all these different types of Democrats that run in places where they can win. And that I actually think, the same, it's less progressive and moderate and more like either aggressive or talking to people about the issues that, like, I just listened to Abigail Spanberger's acceptance speech. She was all over the energy prices stuff. And that just came up all across the focus groups. They're building these big data centers. It's sending everybody's electricity bills through. And she was like, those are big job creators in these states. In fact, they're basically propping up our economy right now.
Yeah.
But
people are going to be thrilled when the AI bubble bursts. Their electric bills go down and their 401ks are cut in half.
That's true, but basically she's saying we're going to make them pay for more of the electricity in the state. Like they're not going to get to drive up and that's a winner in these states. So I do feel like people should start shifting and widening the aperture of the conversation to how do you find the right people for all these places.
Can I actually change the conversation from that to our wheelhouse, which is Trump derangement?
Okay.
And Trump attacks, because I kind of want to make a broader point. Or I'm sorry, JVL, can I make my points, or do you want to take it?
Go ahead. I was going to say that I would like to move away from talking about good things happening for America and to talking about bad things happening to
I'm not ready for that yet.
Okay.
I just think that there's going to be a desire by people who are really, have a dog in the fight of whether the Democrats become the DSA in the future or become the party of deep state spooks who are center left moderates like Abigail Spanberger, to try to fashion the results one way or the other. And the reality is, this is what we've actually learned tonight, is that again, the Democratic coalition is different now, and they do well in off-year elections.
Yes.
On top of that, we learned in New York that Zorn was able to engage some new folks. That's already stated and acknowledged. But what we've really learned is that the Donald Trump is in doo-doo. And I think that he's coming up on a crisis about whether he is a lame duck or not.
I think that what I was gonna. Let me prompt you here.
Okay, Timothy. Great. I love to be prompted. I love being prompted.
My friend Eric Erickson just tweeted out 1 hour ago.
Why is this
lame duck status is going to come even faster now. Trump cannot turn out the vote unless he is on the ballot, and that is never happening again. I'm Ron Burgundy.
Okay, see, that was a bad prompt.
That's not where we wanted to go with that.
I thought you wanted to talk about the lame duckness.
No, I was talking about the lame duckness in the context of the fact that Trump's focus on his fancy ballroom and his imaginary peace prize and bombing boats in the Caribbean and the masked guys deporting people. He isn't focused on the shit. Oh, and I guess the immigration thing is somewhat backfiring if you look at the Hispanic numbers that we're seeing, at least indications early in these results. But the economic situation is not good unless you are heavily invested in the market, and that's where most of your income is coming from. And then you've had to find 10 months. But other than that, or if you're an AI VC bro, or if you're in the private prison industries, or if you're in crypto. Those guys, that crew is all crushing. Regular people are not, and prices have not gotten cheaper; they've gotten more expensive. The economy is rickety. Jobless rates is up, not a ton, but it's up, and people are feeling insecure about their economic status, and they thought that the magic fake businessman was going to fix it, and he hasn't. Mm-hmm. And that and the reality is, this is why the joke about Zoran could have run in Virginia. Like, the reality is that the Democrats could have run a tomato can who's a moderate, or a tomato can that's a socialist in these states tonight, and they would have won. Not by as much, might have changed a little bit depending on the flavor of tomatoes.
I don't think they could have run a socialist in New Jersey.
A socialist tomato can? I'm pretty sure they could have, based on the polls. But whatever. Point being, they could have run some pretty lefty type people, or some pretty whatever. And I think that the real result of tonight, the lesson is that, like, Donald Trump is weak, and he is not riding on a massive mandate of support, and there was not like some permanent shift to him, and people have not accepted the great MAGA future. So there you go. There's my positivity, JVL.
And that is good positivity, because here's the thing. Here's what happened tonight, is that it put a stop to the momentum that Trump was trying to keep going with, the idea that he won a massive mandate. Everybody thought he had the best numbers. That tide is going to turn. He cannot keep this going now. This is a very important, people are going to try to say, like, I tell you what, you're going to hear from the Fox News, the right-wing pundits, what they're going to say, this doesn't matter that much, whatever. No, this matters a great deal. This is the beginning of a turning point. And I think when you look at these numbers and you put them in the context of 2026, if you're able to extrapolate them out, and if the economy doesn't get better in the next year, I don't know if you saw this, but Trump came out recently, and it's apparently someone has whispered to him, hey, the economy is actually not doing that great. And so he said, oh, in January, I'm really going to focus on it. In January, he'll start focusing on it. So I can't wait for that. See what he's got up his sleeve. But the thing that Eric said, actually, Eric Erickson, son of Eric, that I would like to wrestle with is not the JVL derangement 2028 stuff, but this idea of
why do you guys assume that's what I meant? What I meant was that we are accelerating into a schism over Trump as the future of the party. And I think that the Erickson tweet, plus Marjorie Taylor Greene on The View today, plus the Tucker Carlson Heritage Nick Fuentes feud, looks like a big crack up.
It does.
That's what I was trying to say. I was not trying to.
The Iran Burgundy thing made me think that you were going
just trying to make it funny.
Democracy is over.
Just trying to make it funny.
If him being a lame duck is bad, actually, because then he will seize power. I thought that's where you were going.
Let's take that point. But let's take the point, not exactly that he's definitely going to run in 2028, but what happens when Trump's not on the ballot for Republicans? What happens? I mean, the thing that
JD
I think
Vance is a ball of charisma.
Yeah, I know that Trump has floated the JD Vance and Marco Rubio ticket. The Republicans have a genuine problem of what happens when Trump is not on the ticket. This has happened in every off-year election for Republicans. The massive amount of drop-off that occurs from people who are low propensity voters who vote just for Trump, the only Trump voters. I remember when I was at the Deal Book Summit with Kevin McCarthy, and he was bragging about how Trump was this turnout machine and everything else. And I was like, Kevin, they hate you. And Donald Trump taught them to hate the Republican Party. And when Trump's not there anymore, a whole bunch of people who are just red-pilled for Trump, they're not there anymore. And so this is where I think part of the reason you do get the 2028 talk from Republicans is they do not have a plan B. And nights like this freak them out about the future of what they can do without Trump.
Don't disagree with any of that. Do you think it makes them eager to try to move him out, though, so they can start figuring out their post-Trump plan?
I hope not. So something that I've sort of started to,
because that is the thing, right? The unsaid thing is that nobody in Republican world can make moves on running for president until Trump says that he won't run for president.
But this is a real problem for them. This is I agree with you that this is a genuine problem, because the longer they have to entertain Trump as the leader of the party, that is time that's being chewed up of them not being able to figure out what an alternative looks like. Not just an alternative to like Trump the man, but also like, oh no, for a decade, we've only been about a person. We've lost the muscle memory around policy making in an affirmative way. We don't know what we stand for. Do we stand for tariffs still without Trump? What's our foreign policy without Trump? Right? The Congress no longer does anything on the Republican side. So what do you do when Trump's not there? And you know what I love about tonight? It's time for us to, we don't have to look back now. We don't have to just keep looking back. We can start looking forward.
We're not going back.
We're not going back. Don't give Tim PTSD. But I just, here's the thing. The margins were really going to matter tonight. Just the margins and the size of them. Like we knew Abigail was going to win in Virginia.
Cheryl's
there was
now up by 14.
I still think
you got 75% of the votes in, and she's up by 14. Sorry.
Is that where they are right now? Hold on, I got to pull this up. Because I think what's happening is they counted the mail first, right? Or is it all mail in New Jersey?
No. I mean,
no,
so I've been told.
Same day.
So
yeah,
I've
sure,
been
you
told.
don't know because
It's
you
not
don't
all
live there. When it comes in, so when I think the same day numbers are going to come in last, and I assume that'll tighten it. But if they've got 75% in right now, can anybody see, sorry to do this in real time, but can anybody see what the vote totals are? Because when I was tracking in New Jersey, it looked like turnout was lower there. Like they weren't seeing the kind of turnout that they were seeing in Virginia.
Right. She's at 1.4 million already with 75% of the vote counted. And I'm just looking back. Murphy got 1.3 million in 2021 and 1.2 million in 2017.
What did Harris get?
Harris got 2.2 million. So she's not going to get there, but she's going to get more votes than any gubernatorial candidate in a long time.
Oh, I am going to have to take these guys to Vegas.
Yeah.
You're going to take them to Vegas, baby. Hit that craps table.
But you know what? That trip pays for itself, honestly.
It does. That's true.
Right? You make it all back when you're there.
Yeah.
I want to come back to the Republican crack up stuff, JV, unless you want to do it first. I do want to talk a little about midterms and redistricting and what the impact is on that. So should we do that first, or do you want to do Tucker versus Ben Shapiro?
Why don't we come back to that? Why don't we talk about that? Because we'll have a little Prop 50 talk towards the end. Because that's the funny thing in all this is that
I want to talk about redistricting in Virginia.
Prop 50
too.
Yeah. Well, that becomes more likely if Prop 50 passes. Right.
It's going to pass.
Yeah, it's just going to.
Yeah, it's going to. I assume so, but no,
it's going to. And I got to say, Abigail Spanberger in her acceptance speech, which was really excellent. She talks about, she was very like, I'm going to be the governor for all people. I represent you too. It was very gracious, and I liked it very much. It speaks to my heart. But then I was like, Abigail Spanberger is going to redistrict the shit out of Virginia. That's coming.
Sit upon a throne made of the skulls of her enemies.
That's right. But
in a very nice, respectful, and inclusive way.
I don't know, but I just saw that Kansas didn't make it to, like, they weren't able to get there on doing the Republican redistricting that they wanted to do in that state. And so when all of this washes out, I'm not sure Republicans are going to feel great about the fact that they decided to do this mid cycle redistricting. I'm not sure. I'm not sure at the end it doesn't kind of net out closer to a wash.
Well, especially if maybe there's a wave and some of those Texas districts that they thought would be basically safe don't wind up safe, right? Texas goes to carve itself out an additional 5, but instead they actually only net out 3 because they lose some of the marginal ones, right? I mean, that a boy can dream. All right, so can we talk about the Republican Civil War that'll start? I don't know, hopefully tomorrow.
Sure. And I think that
we haven't been together since the Tucker Nick Fuentes thing happened.
Yeah, I was just treating myself this afternoon to a lot of the video. The Ben Shapiro monologue, which was very long. That was not a treat. Listening to Ben Shapiro at 2.0 speed is a real adventure. That's not something I'd recommend doing on Soul out of office gummies because it's hard to follow. But I did my best, and I was watching the response to it from Candace, from others, and man, they and I also watched MTG on The View today, and there's a real like fundamental schism that is happening, and that is an actual threat. And I'm not doing the like, oh, the end is near for Trump thing, but I think that there was a lot of hope that being able to continue to peel off the college educated Wall Street Journal. And how much time we spent talking about these people, like the college educated Republicans, middle to high income, socially moderate types, getting to peel them out of the coalition. And that happened. A bunch of those people voted for Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger today. And it just wasn't enough to beat Donald Trump in 2024. The real threat to that coalition has always been a crack up within the populist side, right? Like that's always been the actual threat, because that's where the numbers are. Like there are only so many people that we're going to leave from the moderate side. Like the bulk of the coalition is white working class people. So where are the potential fracture points there? Sarah's really hopeful that Epstein is one of them. I'm less hopeful, but potentially that's certainly something they've all been talking about. Economics, like working class economics, healthcare benefits, maybe, we don't know whether that's something, but potentially that's something, right? Like where a lot of these voters aren't going to be thrilled, about getting hung out to dry while, the AI VC guys, get welcomed to the gilded ballroom and they're losing their health care and their SNAP benefits. Potentially that could be an area of concern. Foreign policy, Israel. Obviously there's an anti-Semitism subplot to this, but but there are definitely some anti-Semites in that group.
On the right?
I know there are. And so you basically see all three of those coming together via Marjorie, Tucker, Candace, Fuentes to varying degrees, right? And it's a real threat. And Donald Trump, for the first time, finds himself kind of on the side of like the responsible. Like when Ben Shapiro is coming to your defense and the National Review guys are coming to your defense, that to me signals that you might be on the losing side of the battle. Because historically, all the crack ups, it was like the traditional conservatives on one side, and Trump was on the side with Tucker and Marjorie and Candace and the people that have all the energy. And now Trump has gotten moved to the losing side. I mean, at least historically. I don't know whether that'll be true in the future. And that to me is intriguing.
We're going to unpack this some more, but first we have to, I'm sorry, guys. We are contractually obligated to do a single ad.
I got you. Guys,
just
this
one.
show is sponsored by ZBiotics. I have to tell you about this game-changing product I use before a night out with drinks. It is called Pre-Alcohol. I made all my guys drink it before they started drinking tonight in celebration because I need them sharp tomorrow morning. And ZBiotics is the pre-alcohol probiotic drink. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Make the most of every toast, tailgate, and touchdown this holiday season, as well as every celebratory election night. Don't just forget to bring pre-alcohol along for the ride. Oh, wait, just don't forget to bring pre-alcohol along for the ride. This is really useful for me on the rare occasion when I have more than one drink. My producer wrote that for me. And it's especially useful because I have a shop full of 20-somethings with lively social lives who I need to come into work sharp. Go to zbiotics.com/nextlevel to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Next Level at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/nextlevel and use the code nextlevel at checkout for 15% off. Thanks, ZBiotics.
Sarah, do you think ZBiotics could ship an entire pallet's worth of their stuff and just have it waiting at the hotel in Vegas for when you get out there with your team?
I think we're gonna need it. I think we're gonna need it. Okay, are we still unpacking
Can
the
I just
crazy
give you one
crack up?
fun precinct though, just for kicks, just for
Yeah,
so we can
sure.
all have a good laugh?
Yeah.
This is in Edison, New Jersey. It's a
Oh, I
highly
love
South
Edison.
Asian immigrant
Mhm.
precinct.
That's true.
Donald Trump got 342 votes there. Jack Schittarelli got 22.
Huh.
Trump
It's a little fall off.
Trump won by 30. Cheryl won by 76. So the immigrant communities, the highly immigrant communities, maybe did an oopsie in 2024, but are coming back around. It feels like,
who
and
could
we
possibly
welcome
have
them
warned
into
them?
the tent.
Speaking of people who always thought that the alligator would never eat them, Mark Levin.
Thank you.
Now,
Oh, wait, what
very,
did he
very
say?
upset. So, well, no, it's just all part of the MAGA thing. So, like Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin is up there ranting about how, oh, Tucker's not MAGA. These people aren't MAGA, and like this is a thing. John Gans over one of my buddies on Substack has a great piece about this today, and like these guys have been tolerated by MAGA, but I don't know. It seems like the future is Groiper to me. Am I wrong?
I think this is like when the inmates take over the asylum situation. And here's the point I want to make about Ben Shapiro, because Ben Shapiro did a very viral, very long, very good rant about who should not be welcome in the Republican coalition. The only problem is, and normally, I try when people do the right thing to say that's good. They're doing the right thing. We want people to move in this direction. That's good.
Feed the
But
good wolf, Sarah.
I cannot help but point out that one of the biggest, most grotesque anti-Semites is Candace Owens, who that guy, Ben Shapiro, hired, helped make famous. And it's an example, Fox News and everybody else who has, let's call it, platformed, welcomed, given, helped build followings for all of these crazy people, only to find out that now Laura Loomer is the only person with access to the Pentagon. Okay. And so, like, the fact is, the normie-ish guys who made peace with Trump to keep their audiences on side, which is exactly what they did, right? All the National Review types, everybody, all of them suddenly saying, oh my goodness, is there gambling going on in this establishment? Are there anti-Semites among us? I can't believe it. This is the kind of thing that one of the things I reshared on Twitter, because when this whole thing popped off, I will never forget the day that Scott Jennings and I were on the panel on CNN, and this jackass is going, anti-Semitism is only a problem on the left. Like, he was hammering this. It's a left-wing problem. It only exists on the left. And this was when the campus protests were happening. And I said, Donald Trump just had Kanye West and Nick Fuentes to Mar-a-Lago. And it's funny because in the clip, I hit him on it and make him say yes, that was wrong. But then he was like, what's one stupid dinner? The idea that it didn't matter to him, that the president of the United States, because Donald Trump was sanctioning these people by having them at Mar-a-Lago. Why do you think people thought they were an acceptable part of the coalition? And what makes me crazy about the anti-antis now suddenly saying, oh my gosh, there are anti-Semites. These people will not say Trump's name. It's just like when Pam Bondi did the whole hate speech thing and they all came down on her like a ton of bricks. How can she be so stupid? And at the same time, Donald Trump is standing there with reporters being like, they say hate speech against me, so I'm going to have them banned. And everybody's like, Donald Trump, Mike Johnson, I didn't hear what he said. What could he have possibly have said? Say his name, people. Admit that the guy you signed up with, Ben Shapiro, the fundraiser that you held for him, say his name. Say that he did this and that you helped him. Every single one of you rolled out the red carpet for the people who are now taking over the party. We told you it was happening. You told us we had Trump derangement syndrome, but we were right, and now they're going to take your jobs.
What's weird about this, though, is that most of the like Ben, like Mark Levin, like a lot of National Review, these people were all late on Trump. Like they were anti-Trump to begin with, while the Fuenteses and the anti-Semites, those guys were with Trump first, right? Like the Fuentes part of the world, the Groypers, all they were early on Trump, while all of these people who are now trying to kick them out of the party were all anti-Trump. And
which is part of the reason why they're from the weaker position. And this is the thing with the Ben Shapiro thing, which is like, okay, it's just worth saying, objectively, it's good that he's doing it.
Yeah, great.
Because there's a lot of power on the other side of the far right, and it's like better to fight those, the racist Nazis than to join them, I guess. But it is like not only was Ben and all of them never Trump originally. Ben wrote in 2015. Ben got kicked out of Breitbart. The whole reason the Daily Wire exists is because Ben was writing for Breitbart that that Donald Trump was enabling the rise of the alt-right and these anti-Semitic online voices, and they were rallying to Trump, and that was bad, and the conservative movement should not abide this. And he got ran out of Breitbart on a rail because they were like, "You're a heretic," and they said a lot nastier things about him. And then he went out on his own on the Daily Wire, and then he hired Candace Owens and did a fundraiser for Donald Trump. So it's like, you built this, like you made this, you made your bed here, you saw it. Like it's not as if this was surprising to you. I mean, some of us, like, again, we've done our mea culpas, but it's just worth saying, like, some of us were like, I assume these guys were like a crazy little, 20%, 10% of the party. I didn't realize how strong it was. Once I saw it, I said, no, I'm out of this party. And I was going for good. Like Ben Shapiro is like, I saw clearly that Donald Trump was cultivating a rise in alt-right, racist, far-right nationalists within the party. I'm going to speak out against it. And then after that, being like, well, he won, so oopsie daisies, maybe I'll just be a part of it now. And then 8 years later, he wants to be like, who brought the racists to the party? And it's just like, come on, man. Like, come on, man. You did.
No, 100%. Number two, the thing about so many of these people, when you say they came late to Trump, what I cannot get over is that when they came to Trump, including Ben Shapiro, it was post trying to overturn an election. You think if you lay down with the dogs who do election denialism, who lie to these people, who put up all these candidates in 2022, where the only litmus test was to say that you too believed that the election was stolen, you don't think you're going to get fleas from that guy? You don't think the people he's drawing into the party are the kind of people who hate you, Ben Shapiro? Because that's what happened. That's what happened. You changed your mind after you saw this guy overturn an election. And then you decided now's when I'm going to get on board. And you got there just in time for people to decide that Trump isn't taking it far enough and that you represent the establishment and that they're coming for you.
All right. I want to ask some analysis. How do you think this?
I'm sorry. Ranting not working
ends?
For you?
No, I love it. But believe me, I love it so hard.
Analysis. Ben Shapiro, douche.
Forward looking.
You made this your bed. Sorry.
How do you think this ends? Like, is Megyn Kelly able to maintain the, like, I'm just not going to talk about it stance? Is Mark Levin going to be able to maintain the this isn't real MAGA? Real MAGA is pro-Israel MAGA. Like, what?
Here's how the size of I don't want to pretend to know like what 2028 holds. But here are the things I think we know now
the next 6
that
months.
are new. Yeah, so here are the things we know now that are new. The dogs are a little bit more loose. I think that there was a period of time Trump came in, he won all the states. People were surprised by the scope of his victory. Most people, even if they'd expected that he was going to win, he put in all these crazies in the cabinet. They're like, whoa, this is like the id of the party. Like, you can't speak out against him right now. I think like increasingly, tonight's results tied with this recent, Tucker versus Shapiro crackup and Marjorie Taylor Greene being out there. I think there's going to be some more toe dipping in the water of where can we get some distance from him? How can we start to look around corners? It's not going to be, they're not going to be, writing op-eds for the Bulwark anytime soon. Like, I think that everybody
Except for
can
MTG.
Yeah,
Marjorie will.
everybody can keep their expectations in check. But I just think that this marks the point where people start to test the waters a little bit about where can I get some distance from this, and particularly on the populist right, that kind of crowd. I think that's one thing. And the other thing that I just thought of earlier today is, I mean, I think that the notion that like you're in clean handoff territory from Trump to JD feels very sketchy right now. And I think that is something that would be
There's only one clean handoff.
Trump to Trump.
Trump to John Jr. It has to be dynastic.
John Jr. is too stupid, unfortunately. Fortunately for all of us. John Jr. is
not too stupid to win the nomination.
Sure, yeah. Actually, yes. People say like, "Oh, Donald Trump is so stupid." I have to tell you, like, if the intelligence here, we'll do it within the screen. If JD is the smartest of them, you know, and like Donald Trump is down here, okay, and then where would you put Marjorie? Like a little above Donald, you know, and then
I wouldn't go that far now.
A little below. Okay, Marjorie's down here below Donald. Don Trump Jr. is like below the earth. Donald Trump Jr. can barely write a sentence. Okay, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. That's why he put
Sarah,
JD in there.
Tell me, where do you think this goes?
So it's funny you mentioned Megyn Kelly, because I would put her in the bucket of people that could run in 2028. I do think on the right, part of this crack up and part of the dominance of their influence culture has strong benefits and really benefited Trump. But it also means that they're going to start, I think, pulling more candidates, because Republicans do not like regular politicians. Their voters do not like regular politicians. And so it would not surprise me at all to see people like Megyn Kelly running. It certainly wouldn't surprise me to see Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson running, maybe even together. I think that you are going to wind up with a situation where J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio end up being like the median normie Republican ticket relative to the other people who come into the field. And there's sort of the bad news of that is that J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio might be made to look much more civilized and normal by comparison, and might make them look more moderate. The other option, though, is that actually it really does tear the party apart.
We have I think an expert on the matter has weighed in on Truth Social.
Yeah.
The president of the United States. Trump, speaking of himself in the third person, and all caps, Trump wasn't on the ballot, comma, and shutdown, comma, were the two reasons that Republicans lost elections tonight, according to unnamed pollsters. That's what Donald Trump had to say, the president of the United States.
The way to rectify that is to put Trump back on the ballot.
It's one way to think about it. But the shutdown part is interesting because, it's hard to over analyze.
It's going to kill the filibuster
kind of like
tomorrow,
two
right?
lightning bugs going back and forth inside a jar that is Donald Trump's brain, and what he means by and shutdown were the two reasons. But one way to interpret that is an acknowledgement that like the shutdown isn't helping them. And to me, if I'm Donald Trump, here's my big hot take prediction. I don't like being in the prediction business, but here's my hot take prediction. He starts to turn the screws on this filibuster.
I think so. He's got a meeting tomorrow. He's got a breakfast tomorrow. I think the answer is that he kills the filibuster. And you know what? I'm okay with that, because it means we finally get DC to be a state. I
bet Sarah's an exciting news. Sarah might have changed her position on the filibuster today.
I wondered if JVL saw me say this, and I imagined him throwing furniture around the room at the idea that after years of him trying to talk me into nuking the filibuster, what it took was one morning
Andrew
shot
Egger.
by Andrew Egger, and I'm suddenly like, he's making a great point there, young Egger.
Remember the gif with the guy and the girls, and the one dude's like, what? Like, that's JVL trying to talk Sarah into undoing the filibuster. Egger saying, maybe we should kill the filibuster. And Sarah going.
So I don't know if people read his morning shots. He made an incredibly interesting point.
You keep real tight tabs on morning shots, don't you? Never miss an edition.
Here's the thing. You got to balance the conservative instincts that I have, which the thing about the filibuster, right, was that it is supposed to engender compromise. And I think we can all see that that is no longer working. But the point that he made that I hadn't quite thought of was that the filibuster, by rendering Congress essentially completely dysfunctional, has allowed the executive to consolidate so much power. And so my competing conservative instinct, which is very against executive power and really believes in checks and balances, is persuaded by the idea that for Congress to function and take back power from the executive branch, it can no longer operate this way. I will also say one thing that has shifted for me just generally is like the idea that they're going to compromise, right? That they like, it's not like that anymore. Like it has gone well past it. And also people sort of need, like, we don't want Democrats to protect Republicans from themselves, right? Like you sort of have to be like, okay, you wanted these policies, like get these policies, you voted for them.
Can't wait for Andrew Yeager to write the case for expanding the Supreme Court and Sarah to be like, wow, you know what? I feel like he's turned me around. Yeah, I guess
you got an assignment. That's
I don't think he's going to get me on that one. I was always a little wishy on the filibuster.
That is not true. We have had so many fights over the filibuster.
I know, but I was open to reforming it as opposed to nuking it.
I want to talk about Sandwich Man because that's the happiest thing we have going for us. But first, very quickly, my girl, Marjorie Taylor Greene on The View today, just tearing into Mike Johnson and John Thune and all of the worst Republican men in Congress. I'm sorry. Are you guys on the bandwagon with me yet?
I'm never doing this bit with you. Never.
I can't wait for her to come on the show. I'm trying to get her on the show. I hope to talk to her. And I don't
That's
need
what I want.
to play your two little game. I don't need to be part of a morality play. Marjorie Taylor Greene and I are not ever going to be pals. She is making some coherent arguments against Donald Trump from a place of vulnerability, and what she is saying is true. Whether she's saying it because of some desire for attention or for because some psychosis, she's having a psychotic break, or because
she's going to try to run in 2028,
I don't know. This is going on The View's not the path to do that, or if she thinks it is. I don't care what her motivations are. Frankly, her points are apt, and I think it's noteworthy that every time someone frees themselves from the shackles of the Trump cult and they're able to speak freely about what is happening in the real world, they speak about the truth, and I appreciate that Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing that now.
All right. Sandwich Man. Guys.
He crushed that cop. That cop's reeked like onions.
I don't know if you guys know this, but we are heading to a third day of this trial for a misdemeanor. We have a jury trial for a misdemeanor.
Yeah. I was thinking back to my various minor impossessions of alcohol, and the time I didn't do the traffic court training, and I didn't show up to the class I needed to take for my various speeding tickets back when I was a wayward youth. I had several misdemeanors. I don't recall ever having a jury trial. That seems unusual.
I would like to read you guys some reporting from inside the courthouse by Molly Roberts. Are you ready?
Please. Yeah.
I'm just reading Molly here. This is her voice, not mine. The officer, sandwich guy, is charged with assaulting, testifies that he could feel the impact of the sandwich through his ballistic vest, and it, quote, exploded all over my uniform. He says he could, quote, smell the onions and the mustard. Following this, the defense brought the video up and pointed out that the sandwich was still covered in paper, had no mustard emerging from it, no way to tell what condiments were on it because it was completely wrapped in paper. In fact, that sandwich hasn't exploded at all, has it? The defense. Government's next witness, Metro Transit Police Department Detective Diana Henry, describes the sandwich throw as like a baseball pitch. and hand to God, the defense attorney referred to the police officer as a seasoned cop. These are all real things happening in a court of law in Donald Trump's America. We're spending 3 days trying to hang a misdemeanor conviction on a guy who threw a sandwich that an alpha male warrior war fighter with probably 5 Punisher tattoos felt all the way through his ballistic vest, like the princess on the mattress with the pee in it.
Is part of the sandwich guy's defense that the cop looked hungry?
I mean, I haven't been in the. I haven't.
He looked
been in
hungry.
The
I was trying to give him a sandwich.
We need to update, I feel like, the ballistic vests. I'm pretty concerned if he could feel a thundering shake from the Subway sub. I mean, what would happen if it was a paintball? What would happen if it was? I wonder what would happen if it was more of a hard crust, like a
baguette.
Bread, yeah.
I mean, a
Those
full
Subway
baguette could have
subs are
lanced
pretty-
right through it like a sabot round.
Guys,
bread.
should we do it? Should we let's run through. I know.
Give me 30
sh-
seconds on Sandwich Guy before we go back to do election recap.
Okay, what more
Come
do you
on,
got?
Sarah. Let me have some joy.
I don't have 30 seconds on the sandwich guy. He's good. I'm glad it looks like he won't be convicted. Solidarity with sandwich guy. Actually, don't throw things at cops, but also don't be babies, guys. I would like to come back because I'm in a good mood about the election, and I would like to talk about that.
Yeah,
and I
are you price lining flights right now because Spamberger is up to 56.9% of the vote share?
God. No, but tell me what Cheryl's at.
Cheryl is up by 13 points with 86% of the votes in, baby. You might as well just get the travel agent going on that.
You're going to Vegas anymore. You're going.
That is amazing. Here's some other races, though, that we haven't talked about that I'd just like to throw in there because the Democrats are winning absolutely everywhere in absolutely every context, including there was a big Supreme Court race in Pennsylvania where they needed to have, there were 3 Democrats who were up to be either, forget the term, but it was like either kept, retained, I believe is what they call it. They were all retained. And this may sound like a small thing to people, but the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania in the middle of a contested election is actually going to matter quite a bit. And so that was a big race. It's interesting that Governor Shapiro was all over this. You know who wasn't anywhere to be heard from in Pennsylvania? John Fetterman was not there. There was also a couple of like
he was busy defending Trump's ballroom.
He was
on the Lara Trump show over on Rumble.
Heck, yeah, great stuff.
Future of the Democratic Party, John Fetterman.
Yeah, I would love to go replay some JVL from when 50% Fetterman was
of the time.
22.
I'm right 100% of the time.
Also in Georgia, there were some down ballot seats. I can't remember for exactly what, but no Democrat has ever won them. There were 2 Democrats that won in Georgia, which I think, even though it's just a little thing, is probably going to make John Ossoff happy to see that.
Was the public service commissioner. Very important role. We appreciate your service.
We do, but they have never won. They have never won. And obviously, Mamdani, I don't know if we have new numbers on Mamdani.
He's over 50%.
He's hovering right at 50. Yeah.
Do we think that's an underperformance from him?
It's a slightly underperformance of the polls, but he's the first Democratic or his first mayor of any kind to get 1 million votes in New York since John Lindsay, who ran on the unbelievable slogan. Can I pull this from my memory? He is. I can't. I'm gonna pull it up though because I loved it so much. Go ahead. You guys keep talking.
Okay, you go find that. But I think I would like to see from you two a little more, like just downright glowing enthusiasm.
Yeah, I can't do that, but he is fresh and everyone else is tired was the John Lindsay slogan, and amen to that because count me in the tired portion. Look, here's the thing. I want to talk about the redistricting stuff. I'm happy. Everybody's happy. I can't fake it. Okay, I am who I am. You're gonna get my honest views. Donald Trump is still the president for like 3 more years, and I have trauma. I have election night trauma. I have trauma from last year. Hearing the music on NBC gives me trauma. Going to the fucking Needle page gives me trauma. Talking about it gives me trauma. And I might not ever recover. I don't know. I might not ever be able to have a happy election night again. And that's me because I have Trump derangement syndrome. That said, it was objectively good. And I think that the best news is probably just brought it to next year's midterms. And anything can happen in the next year, obviously. But the redistricting thing, assuming that Prop 50 passes in a landslide, which I think it's going to, the Virginia win, Virginia as of now, and this could change, is I think the Democrats have picked up like 11 seats already. So she's going to have the biggest majority. It's a trifecta. The delegates, the Senate, and the governor's race is going to be the biggest one since like 1985 or 89. Back when the Democrats included like Dixiecrats still in the party. So like it's a massive, and so they will jam through a redistricting for sure, as you mentioned earlier, Sarah. So if you look at those maps, that's probably 3 seats more. 5 in California, that's 8. It makes it a lot hard. I mean, the Republicans could probably still squeeze out a situation where they end up, figuring out 12 or something, 13, but that makes their margin way thinner. And if you kind of project out the type of win that Cheryl and Spanberger had of over a dozen when it's all said and done, Spanberger is going to be at 14 really. That projects out to a pretty strong Democratic wave next year. And a strong enough wave, and this is where I was going to go. Trump, it's notable that Trump we were making fun of his bleed earlier about how they lost because Trump wasn't on the ballot. But had these races been close, Trump was laying the groundwork to say cheated, stolen. And this is like the reality that we're in now in this country, where like the Democrats don't have to just win, they have to win big. Because as long as if they win big, then all the Republicans are like, well, there was some cheating, grumble, grumble, grumble. Let's talk about the caravan tomorrow. But if the Democrats win narrowly, they try to stop the steal, right, and steal the election. And to me, the big concern about next year and the midterms and all the redistricting stuff is, like, if the Democrats eke out a win, then we're staring down the barrel of, 2021's insurrection all over again, right? Like where Republicans try not to seat the Democrats, where there's a lot of shenanigans. If between California and Virginia and now Maryland, Wes Moore, I should shout out Wes Moore, stepped up today and said he's finally going to get off his ass and redistrict Maryland. That's another seat. If the Democrats can get themselves in a position between the redistricting and the wave where they end up winning by 15, 20 seats next year, then like they can do all they want with the mail-in ballot fraud or whatever, and it won't matter. And to me, that will be something that will give me joy, genuine joy. And we're on a trajectory to that tonight with the results. And I think that's actually more important than any specific race.
And I think we should just talk, like, Democrats really needed this. I think the level of helplessness and hopelessness that's sort of been dragging on people since Trump won, like Tim's talking about his trauma, everybody felt that way, right? There's a real sense of, can we get this back? Are we doomed? And I do want to push into something that I tried to reassure people about. As mad as people get at the voters, like, so many people, yes, JVL, I'm looking at you. That's a subtweet, hard subtweet of you. Okay. In a lot of these ways, right? I do think we are probably trapped in some cycles of change elections here because people are increasingly dissatisfied with the state of things. But I think that people should just remember that there's a lot of swing in these voters, that it does not mean that all the trajectory heads one way. And I think people should be excited about the midterms and should be focused on, if you get these kinds of numbers, can you win in Ohio with Sherrod Brown? Like, does the Senate come back into play? And so some offense, I think everybody's been back on their heels. And I'd like people to find a little bit of that offense mentality now that says there are things we can do about this. Like, you can, and if you blow Trump out in 26, if you blow the Republicans out in 26, you get a bunch of things. Not only do you change, I think, a real trajectory of the country going into 2028, but more importantly, you get oversight. The one thing that Donald Trump doesn't want in his last 2 years, because all this crypto scam money and all the pardons that Trump doesn't even know who he's pardoning, all this stuff, like start looking at that stuff. And that's what Dems are going to do when they come in. And I'm here for it.
Guys,
all right. I got this message here in the comments from Selenos. It says, we all have trauma, Tim, but however, none of us have the luxury of crawling back into bed and hiding under the covers. I don't know. Some of you guys might. I got a fucking podcast tomorrow, but if you can crawl under the covers, you should crawl. Enjoy the covers, baby. I could use that. I heard that election night music and I was like, where are the covers? Where are my gummies? Where are my soul gummies? I need the elevated dose, the Longwell.
JVL, do you feel just a little bit like your whole, like, everything's terrible, it can never get better, we're doomed? Like, is any part of you?
I started the whole show by saying this is a really big deal. I wrote this newsletter today. I know you're probably reading Andrews for the fourth time.
I did read it.
But I was like, today's the day the resistance strikes back. I know the last word. What is the last?
I know.
JVL, you aren't happy enough. Smile, JVL. Smile.
We are unlikely to know the result for sure tonight, but this is the one where America strikes back against Trumpism. That's how I ended my newsletter. So yes, of course, I am not.
I know, but you write every day, and sometimes you take all the positions. And so let's admit that the
How do you write every day without taking all the positions?
I know. But here's the thing: the preponderance of your positions tend to careen into the slough of despond over the state of things, which I understand.
Well, things are pretty bad.
Of course they are, but
Jane,
they're not
do you
so
have any
bad.
liquor in your house?
They're
Do you have
not
any
so
liquor
bad
in
that we
your
can't
house?
do something about it.
Do you have a single drop of hard liquor in that house, that old house?
I actually don't think we do.
Sarah wants you taking a shot of Fireball right now. Can somebody in New York City bring JVL?
Fireball?
Can go to a bodega?
Am I a 20-year-old sorority girl?
Yeah, she wants you to be as happy as a 20-year-old sorority girl on Fireball after these wins
I
tonight.
do.
So that's what
Yes,
Sarah
I
wants.
do.
Abigail Spanberger, Mikey Sherrill, Zoran. We have a communist running New York now. Things are great. It's exactly what everybody wants.
Yeah, I will just say the only
Okay,
silver
don't
lining
ruin it,
for-
Sarah. Just keep it as an inside thought.
All right.
Guys, good show. Unbelievably long show. We're never doing this thing live again. But it was a good night, and I'm glad we could all be together for it. I'll say this with a happy tone in my voice. Good luck, America.